Welcome back to another episode of the Tailosive Tech podcast with your Wait a minute, that's not Mike. Oh my God!
Hello.
Look at you!
I got out of the escape room. I'm free.
What did you do with Mike?
Well, I just felt like I needed a facelift. I'm still Mike, by the way. It's just
Oh,
I'm an engineer, and I've engineered a new
AI is
face.
coming along a long way. My God!
Right, it has. So I can portray myself
Vision
as
Pro.
anyone.
Yeah, Vision Pro is amazing.
Ooh,
I'm seeing it. It's like you're really there.
I have to write that down actually now as a use case. Tracking faces upon other people's faces for VisionOS. Could do that, right? If they have the artificial FaceTime call thing, you could paste that
Yeah.
on top of someone else. You got the cameras, you got the LiDAR on the outside. So,
You know who I would be? Even though this is most unfortunate, I must regret to inform you that this is the Randy show now, not the Tailosive. People, I'm surprised that we. You are done, finished. I will bury you and your whole background into wherever you're. I don't even know if I know you've been posting on your live channel. I don't know if our audience here is fully caught up though, because you don't really talk about it in your tech
to keep it vague.
channel. You do keep it vague. How is your travels going?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's kind of trippy right now to think about. I think this is the longest distance podcast we've ever recorded. So we are almost on complete opposite ends of the planet as we're recording right
Yeah.
now. It is like 7 p.m. for Randy, and it's not even 6 a.m. for me. Like the sun is just coming up, and
Yeah.
there's surprisingly little latency. It's not too bad.
Maybe a second, if that.
It's like not any
Yeah.
more than there normally would be. So it's interesting that we can be this far apart and still somehow make a show happen.
The future is weird sometimes, but then it's also very impressive that this is like we were doing this before it was cool, but knowing that like it's post COVID cool, and now
Right.
anybody can do this, like unfortunately that means you can't really have that many excuses for people who telework and have that remote
Right.
job that you have to get on a call. Like if we can make this work, then
Work finds you. You can't escape
work
it.
finds you. As you're showcasing, you're still being very active on your channels, which is impressive because I wasn't sure how you were going to pull that off, but
I
you're
wasn't
making it
either.
work.
Most of the places, I'm so grateful for the family that lets us stay here and lets us visit. However, if I could be just a teensy bit critical about it, it's very
Please.
difficult to contact people and ask them how their internet is. Even even when I just send them fast.com, just click on the link and hit the show more button and tell me what the numbers say. And they're always like, "What? How do you do that? I don't know. I watch TV on it and it seems okay." And I'm always like, "Okay, I need the numbers." And after trying and trying multiple times, also it's hard just with time zones finding. As we just discovered, I was late to the recording of the show because I got the time zones wrong. Um, it's hard to get a hold of people, but going into this trip, I had the expectation there's a chance that I could go somewhere with really bad internet, and there's a chance that I won't be able to post at all. So that was an expectation in my head of like, if the channels go inactive for several weeks, that's just going to happen. There's not going to be a way around it. I'm not going to um, I don't know. Like I just told you, I don't have a car right now, so I can't just drive to some coffee shop and upload there or anything. And
Yeah.
I had the full expectation that, okay, that the channel's worst case scenario might have to go into hibernation mode, which is why I was so grateful that you and Mike were still able to post. Um, I'm thinking of the mic from Better Call Saul. Like, I just
We
ready.
talked about Better Call Saul before we started recording.
Here's what's gonna
Now,
happen.
Walter. Now, here's what's going to happen. I'm making the face. Would you just shut up?
You do your job. You shut up.
We had a good thing going, but you, in your pride, and your ego.
Right. I took Mike away.
Uh,
But
I'm
I've
trying to make
loved
his
like
shut up and let me die in
defeated
peace.
face. Like you could he could die at any moment and not be upset face, you know.
That's me.
That's pretty much everyone when they first wake up face. But all that to say,
That's true.
all this
That's
to
true.
say, I've been very happy that you guys have kept the show going without me. That was always my dream from the beginning, was to, like, Tailosive content coming out, and I don't know anything about it. So I got to listen to the shows. I listened to both each week, usually before they were live. I was like, oh, they're uploading, and I would play them. And there were several parts of the trip where I would download them right before a flight. Shout out to YouTube Premium being super useful. I have really taken advantage of the downloads feature on this trip because there's been extended periods where I don't have Wi-Fi at all. But having something to listen to, especially when it's you guys, has been fun, and I love being like the listener's perspective. It's like, well, now you guys really get to flesh out your thoughts a lot more, and I don't cut you off like I normally do.
No, it's
and I
fine.
don't, and I don't shut like, well, let me tell you how I feel. It's good to see that, like, margin, that space, because you guys, and it shows in how you commentate. Like, the way I could describe it for you is, like, you want to make sure any topic you go into, or anything you're thinking about, you understand fully. Like, you want to get under the surface of it. You're like, let me explain the logic behind that, the reasoning behind that. And it's all, everything with you feels very much about intentionality. And
Yeah.
similarly with Mike, in a different way, you can tell from his background as an engineer, there's this emphasis on not not leaving anything, like, unsaid, to
Right.
let me expound upon all the possibilities with this, or what you could be implying by this, or here's a consideration to take into effect. And I appreciated both of the perspectives going back and forth on topics, and I was just like, see, I don't know if this could have happened if I was there, because I'd I'd be like jumping in or trying to weigh in on whatever, or we'd be talking about whatever videos I
Well, now we
posted
get to
that
do that
week.
with you, right? Like we have you now. Now we get to sit down and have our therapy session with Drew. You're right, though. I think that's a fair assessment because I've had time to think over the last month, more or less, about how it's not that the dynamic has shifted or changed. It's just you adjust appropriately for it. You and
Hmm.
I have done multiple shows, just you and I, so I know how you and I are able to, riff off of one another and set us up for the next transition, or
Right.
we know how to play the game, so to say. With Mike, it is interesting to see him do that thing where he gets very analytical and he hits every mark. It's very rarely does he miss a mark. He is very methodical about all the intentionalities when it comes to tech or EV, that he'll put thought into something, and you see it in his notes, right? Like how he
Yeah.
posts his notes
He's the
to
only
go
one of
over
us
it.
that takes
He's
notes.
the only one, and to see that translate, it's interesting that when it's just him and I, we have all that room to breathe and
Hmm.
and flesh out those ideas,
Right.
which is fun. At the same time, because of you being gone and having dub just happening before that, it's there's a lot of information that we can really drag out for the
Yeah.
next couple weeks or months until you get back. We also have, with it being a lull in the tech, side of things, it's easier for us do those deep dives, whether it's with VisionOS or Vision Pro, whether it's with our peripherals and our accessories and stuff like that. EV not so much, breaking news all the time. And admittedly, I tell Mike, I'm like, I don't want to eat my veggies first. Let's do EV. So
Sure.
it's interesting when we get like that, but then you can see Mike gets really amped about EV. So I let him take the reins on that one a lot too. You said something on your stream yesterday or 2 days ago as of recording this that I thought about afterwards, where you were talking about like you could see the ethos if we had an ethos, that how it shines through on the podcasts in your absence, that if Tailosive had an ethos, it was shining through. And it was really interesting to see your take on it, you being the inception of it, and where we all kind of have that common ground and the connection that you said, we love our tech, but we're very intentional as well, or at least mindful when it comes to cost and pricing, and it shows and it reflects on all our decisions and our purchases and stuff like that. And I figured, since Apple is supposed to be at the intersection of liberal arts and technology, Tailosive sits at the intersection of tech fandom, if you will, and affordability, and where we can find the best value. It's value of tech versus efficiency of tech. That's what I remember saying it. Tailosive sits at the intersection of efficiency and value in tech. Value being cost or someone's take away from it. Nick will have more value having the biggest lens he can have for his camera when he finds value in that. But the fact that we emphasize on the value portion, and some more than others, we emphasize on the cost factors, hence iPhone minis and SEs and stuff.
But
I like that. Like that is the ethos, because I find joy out of it. I find excitement challenging the consumer mindset of like, oh yeah, just buy the new one without thinking about it. Just do it. Series 7, you and I both, that's just, I like that. So anyway, I'm glad we're giving you content and we're giving you entertainment. We do miss you, but I'm glad we found a way to make it all work.
I don't miss me. I thought you guys were doing great. If Mike wasn't busy this week, maybe I wouldn't have said anything. I would have been like, no, I want to see another just Randy Mike episode. I'm kind of good, but
it would have been a weird episode this week.
Yeah, I felt like the show must go on anyway, as you guys have proven. But it's fun. I think it's more personal too, what you described, because I'm glad you brought up Nick as well, because it's finding that fulcrum of like, okay, when is something the right value? When is something not worth it versus worth it? There's not an objective answer to that. It depends on the person, right? It comes down to our backgrounds, our use cases. So we hear what Mike is doing on the road, or in his line of work, what makes sense for him, and you as the audio engineer, the musician, great music by the way. What makes sense for him? And now I'm the digital nomad that's traveling around the world, and I'm like, okay, when I don't check luggage on long journeys like this, every little ounce counts. So I'm not packing something I don't need. I'm trying to be as efficient as possible. So when we all have different use cases, that Tailosive as a content strategy is about having an appreciation for the tech, because I think we don't believe in going all in on one side or the other. You can go all in on affordability and just buy the cheapest possible stuff, but you probably won't appreciate the tech as much, both either the efficiency of it, or it could be the aesthetics. I think it's reasonable and fair to account for that. It shouldn't be the final, end all be all decision is which tech is the prettiest, which tech is the nicest looking. But I think it's okay to admit we're human, and these tools we use a lot, so we kind of want them to look nice. We want for the sake of minimalism and for the sake of having a desk that welcomes productivity both from the logistics side of like how do I plug things in, monitor, keyboard,
Mm-hmm.
and all that, and also from the headspace side. Does this overwhelm me when I sit down? Am I stressed out by looking at all this complicated third-party hardware? Or you go, wow, this is a beautiful setup. It's like looking at an empty canvas with the paint on the side, and it's optimized your headspace when you sit down. So it's basically taking into consideration what I think all everyday consumers truly do. Because most tech shows probably either go all in on one or the other. These days, it's very easy to just go all in on the tech appreciation, throw out the value, throw out the affordability, and just focus on let's buy the best stuff in the world. New Mac Pro with M2
Right.
Ultra. Okay, buy that one. Buy the best of the best. Okay. Now there's a Pro Display. Buy the Pro Display XDR instead of us, who has we'll have like 6 episodes about the Pro Display XDR being too expensive, but how we appreciate the look of it and we
Yeah.
admire the specs of it. But that's why we'll come back to something. AirPods Max came out. We all tried it. Then like year goes by and we all come back to it again. Okay, let's talk about that though. Like now that it's cheaper,
Yeah.
secondhand, renewed, can we really justify it? Still not really, but we made sure we at least we thoroughly
Yeah.
talked it out, revisited, so it's a it's an ethos and like a fulcrum that I didn't notice until I left, which is why it was kind of educational for me, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you still keep me on my toes though, even in your absence, because, for example, I did not know until you put it back on my radar. Not that I could do anything with it at this moment. Like, it's safe to say maybe the Series 7 is probably the best Apple Watch that we have in modern Apple Watch history.
Hmm.
And it's out there on Amazon for Amazon Renewed at a very affordable price.
Hmm.
And a price that, like, you would pay less than what you would have for the aluminum
Right, right.
version of that.
Yeah.
And I I look at a lot of tech today through that same like filter.
Hmm.
I look at the tech and I go, okay, can I get this cheaper somewhere else? Rule of thumb for me, never worst case scenario or best case, depending how you look at it. I will never pay full price for something because of the veteran thing that I have on Apple.com.
That's good.
But until Mike told me, for example, he's like, "Oh, did you check certified refurbished for the studio display?" And I went to take a look, and I was like, "Oh, that's an additional 200 off of the ready
Yeah.
200, and that's like 400."
Yeah.
So, you know, update on that. I actually today I pulled the trigger.
You did?
I bought the studio. Yeah,
Oh, wow. This
I
is breaking news to me. I didn't know this.
it's breaking news to everybody. Yeah, I can't keep working under. We talk about efficiencies. This
Hmm.
monitor, though beautiful in size and screen real estate, still leaves a lot to desire. I won't regurgitate what I had already complained about with it, but point being that being in the ecosystem that I already built for myself with Apple, it's really hard to have third party peripherals come in
Hmm.
and let that be the focal point. It can't be. It starts to fight with the ecosystem. The only exception I will give it will be like my actual smart TV that I had. Only works because I hooked Apple TV Plus or Apple TV up to it.
Right.
So I run through the control. I have one of these downstairs, and I turn on the box, and everything's ran through that. But outside of that, I can't think of another tech product that I engage with that would have that doesn't have like an app like a first party uh, hardware software happening in there. The
Sure.
only other one would be this monitor, and this monitor has just been kind of whooping my butt a little bit. So after
You did it.
after sending some bills to the floor My House in Congress signed off on it, and I was like, all right. Because worst case, if it doesn't work out, if it turns out to be a bust, it's not like you can't return these products, you know.
That's true.
So
They've got really
I encourage
reasonable
everybody.
return policies, which
Yeah,
makes you certain that it's the right decision after you taken delivery and set it up and everything. But yeah,
yeah,
it was a beautiful monitor last time I checked one out. I guess I saw one in the Philippines briefly, but
yeah.
that was my last experience with one. They're cool.
That's an example of being like I'm gonna go with that one over the Pro XDR display. That's an example of that.
Oh yeah.
And even in that category, I wouldn't pay the full retail price. Still stand
No,
today.
of course not.
Not that it's not worth it. Worth is subjective,
Mm,
but
it's not worth
moral of this.
it.
The moral of the whole thing is, I think always look at certified refurbished because I've never had a bad experience with anything I bought through them, and neither has Mike. Neither have you. You bought something through it, didn't you, or no?
I
Have you bought something?
I got an Apple TV through it. I'm trying to remember something. More recently, I've done more eBay refurbished and that kind of thing. But still, Apple's a lot
Oh,
more
same.
trustworthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the secondhand stuff. And oh yeah, recently I got another M1 iPad Pro just for Final Cut testing. And what else? Oh, the Pixel 6a also through there. I was like,
Right.
hey, this is coming with more accessories than the new one did. The new one didn't come with a charge brick. This one did. It's cheaper. So I was like, yeah, and it's in great condition. I just think people are too paranoid. Too many people are insistent that if it's not new, they're going to get scammed or something, and they don't understand return policies and like buyer protection. Like, it's okay. You'll be all right.
I I don't know if it's paranoia more so than maybe. For me, it wasn't paranoia. For me, it was pride. I want to be the
Yeah,
first owner. I want to be the da 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 da.
it's me.
I
Only
I
me.
sell to the second party,
Right.
to the next owner.
I am
But now
the one who sells.
I am the one who sells. But now I'm actually having fun being the one who's buying because it's just more. It's interesting. You know what it is though. Let's also let's call it what it is. In some regards, we're cheap.
Hmm.
We're a bit cheapskate, and that's okay because now you're traveling the world. Hey,
Yeah.
I traveled the world right before you. You know that.
Hmm.
Thank God I saved the 80 cents at the checkout. Yeah.
Right.
Well.
Well, the traveling has definitely given me tons of time to think. And I know there were several episodes where you kept saying, what is the problem that Vision Pro is trying to solve? And I think I have an
Yes.
answer for you.
I
I
would
thought
love to hear this.
I, I thought a lot about this all over the weeks, which is
Just don't
um,
think I don't see you out there defending it, Drew. You know, don't think I don't know where you
well,
stand on the chart. And
luckily, neither of you, I think, have been very dismissive of it. I love the whole for and against game show, but I thought both
I'm
of
about to
you,
grab them papers.
I thought both of you did a decent job uh, arguing for and against, and I could tell both of you are pretty split on it. Like you're not totally sold and you're not totally against it. You're just
Right.
curious, which is I think a lot of the community right now because it's such a weird product. But I should also just mention I'm so grateful that it happened, that it exists, because it's like for me it has revitalized my interest in the tech space. Like
Yeah.
it is so refreshing to have something that feels like there's a big unknown and exciting future in. I don't feel this way about any other Apple product right now. It's like everything else has peaked, matured, and we're just
Hmm.
like, now what? What do they come up with next? Slightly better camera, slightly faster chip, slightly better battery. It's all just iteration, you know.
Worse OS for the sake of reinventing a product that's not broken. I saw that video today, or for you yesterday. Yeah, I
Seems to
watched that.
both my WatchOS videos seem to have struck a chord with people. They both have done way better than all my other videos. I don't know what it is. but it's like one of those classic iPad OS moments, where it's like
Yeah.
we don't know what to do with it, so we're just going to start changing it and see what happens, and just
Yeah.
rethink it for the sake of rethinking it. And yeah, it's just like the side effect of a mature product, basically. Whereas Vision OS and Vision Pro has me all like, um, there's so much to be done. Like, there's so much room for improvement, but there's also so much change uh, and use cases to me that open up, that I had to start making a list. So I wasn't kidding earlier when I said I started a note on my phone just for Vision OS use cases. And it keeps
Oh boy.
going. I wrote
Oh. Oh.
so there's been,
Oh.
especially, I don't know if it's been because of this trip, but I've been on 12-hour flights and been on huge layovers where I just I just go into my head and start thinking about things. I'm like, okay, what does spatial computing mean? But basically, to answer your question, what is the problem that Vision Pro solves? It's expanding commute expand oh, sorry, it's early.
It's really early.
It's
All right. While
really
you collect your thoughts, I'm just saying you're quite the philosopher. Great. It's late over here.
Great. Screw you, J.K. Rowling.
Does
Philosophy.
a philosopher's stone, the
Right.
philosopher self.
She thought we couldn't say the philosopher. Okay.
She thought we could have pronounced this a philosopher.
I worked really
The
hard on this,
philosopher.
which is why I was mad. I wanted to get it right away. But okay.
That's right.
I've tried to keep it simple and short. It's expanding computing beyond the black mirror.
Okay. Wait.
Another another way of phrasing it would be it expands your digital life beyond the bezel.
Okay. The black. I like Black Mirror better.
Yeah, me too. It's like everything digital today is bound by either the Black Mirror or the bezel, which, in case those who don't know, Black Mirror is another form of screen, essentially. It's like you have your laptop, when it's off, it's just black and it's a little reflective. Same with your phone, same with the TV. This is what our digital life lives on. Yeah, it's that black
Yeah.
reflective surface that we watch everything on. And I think the end goal with Vision Pro and Vision OS is to
To
bridge
expand.
expand computing beyond that. It is no longer bound by a bezel. It's no longer bound by a black glass. Now it's something that can exist anywhere in any form, um, which is what augmented reality is. I guess that's what has excited me more for it. Was, leading up to it, I was not that interested. I think we have record of that on both the show and on the
Mm-hmm.
channel, of just like, I don't see the need for that. I don't know why I would spend 3 grand on a headset.
Mm-hmm.
I said that many times, and I was trying to figure out. And I think the my flawed looking at it, which is why I'm grateful that I tried to take the more open-minded approach going into it, because I was like, we could always have our another dynamic island, which is not about. It's not about the island itself. It's about the leaks were right. We knew there would be a little hole punch camera. What we got wrong was the reason behind it. We didn't predict the software and how Apple would pitch. This is actually a feature, not just a design change. And that's why I still like to say, okay, this is what the leaks are saying, here's what the hardware could be, but we should not make a decision before Apple has a chance to pitch the product. Because once they pitch it, we'll understand the reasoning behind it a lot more. And now that they have pitched it, and I went back and watched the keynote several times, even on this trip, I'm like, wait a minute.
As one does.
The only time I've reacted to it was live, and I'm managing a chat and I'm trying to commentate on it while I'm watching it. So it's a little unfair. It's like I need to go back and actually. This is the first time, honestly, I've ever gone back and intentionally just sat down and watched the keynote. No commentary, not anything else going on. I'm not, using Twitter and watching it. I'm just nothing else, just watching the keynote. And I'm like, how are they pitching this? And also, I watched a ton of Tim Cook interviews with Good Morning America and others
Yeah.
with people um, that worked on it, like Mike Rockwell, um, explaining like what is the purpose of this product, what's the intention of it. And once I watched those, I realized this is the reason I had it all flawed was because I still had the old Apple mindset of every product category almost always comes back to how does this help us sell more iPhones? Everything is built around that iPhone in the center. That's the core of your ecosystem that you build everything on top of. And this was the first product that was difficult to wrap my brain around because it doesn't support that thesis anymore. It's not how does this help us sell more iPhones? This is how does this change the way we use our iPhones slash weaken our dependence on it. I don't think it will replace the phone like some people are claiming, but I think similarly, the iPhone didn't replace laptops. It didn't replace
Mm-hmm.
computers, but for some it kind of did. There's still a
Right.
market of them, but it changed the purpose behind buying one, which is I think a better way of describing it. Of like you're looking at it the wrong way if you're asking the question, will this or won't this replace the phone? That's I think the flawed perspective that so many people have, because it's like you're insistent that if it doesn't replace the phone, it can't be a massive impact. It can't fundamentally change the way we use all our tech just because it's not a phone replacement. I think it can be. I think it can fundamentally change the way we interact with all of our tech in time. It's not going to be on the first generation. If you look at all of
We
Apple's,
established the first gen
yeah,
fallacy here. We've
yeah,
established that.
you guys went on that too. So it's like the
Yeah.
the first iPhone. If you never would have looked beyond the capabilities of that, you never would have believed it was going to be a success. One
Right.
camera, just AT&T, no app
No
store.
app store.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was so restrictive and very expensive at that time compared to other phones, super expensive and not very capable. So if you just dwelled on that and said, I don't see why this would take off, it's just a glorified iPod, you wouldn't have foreseen everything the iPhone became, you know.
I have foreseen it.
Right. So because I've had so much time to think on this trip, I guess it's just made me think about like how scrolling blew people's minds with the first phone, with the first iPhone. I'm just like, whoa, that's a really smart way to build a UI, to make it user friendly, but also pack a lot of information. And I think how this eye tracking with the gestures thing could be the next version of scrolling, of just like how do we, and I started, I like a crazy man, like a madman. I haven't really told anyone this. You're the first one. There's been situations where I'm waiting around, it's the airport or whatever, and I'm just visualizing. I'm going through the hoops of like, if
Oh
I
no.
had people all staring at me. First of all, I'm like the only white guy. Then on top of that, I'm practicing.
He has this weird tick with him. He
I'm
doesn't
this tick.
understand
I was
why.
like, okay, if I was browsing Twitter, checking email, or watching YouTube, and I was not bound to the black mirror anymore, I no longer have to watch it or browse it or multitask, arrange windows on this surface. And most of the time, that would be a phone, I think, for the vast majority of people, especially when you're traveling. I want to
Right.
switch between apps with the gestures or the home button, switch between apps. And now I'm stuck with this, little 4-inch, 6-inch screen and trying to build all of that information on this little display. Or can I put it up in front of me on a larger format and scroll through it and interact with it just with my eyes and my fingers? So I'm like practicing what that would be like if I had it. and and I'm kind of like I guess that's pretty seamless. I guess that's pretty like simple. And on top of it, this ran into this a lot with all of me waiting around in public places, is like everybody can see what I'm doing with a phone, with a tablet or a laptop. If I'm using those, people can look over my shoulder. Sometimes I'm managing Creator Studio, I've got my name and or personal info that's exposed and that people could look over and see or see what you're watching or it's the whole reason when you type in a password there's dots and not the actual
Hmm.
characters just for that over the shoulder type little what if someone sees that. It makes me wonder, would they enter the dots on VisionOS or would they just put the letters? Because like, is there a need anymore to hide that, or can you just? Some sites already let you do that. Show password. It's an option you can toggle. But with VisionOS, I feel like that should be the default because you're the only one seeing that. This isn't a product that multiple people are looking at simultaneously, or at least your interpretation of it isn't there. So anytime I ran into a situation where I was like, well, if I had Vision Pro here, I could do this, and I can't really do it
Hmm.
right now. And I started realizing that sure, our phones are convenient and they're useful, but there's more and more times now that I watched those interviews and I saw how Apple pitched it that I realized they're they're thinking about this a lot more than we are. Like they've thought of use cases and they've thought of examples of and they really study this relationship between us and our technology. I think they've still
Yes.
captured that Steve Jobs ethos of wanting tech to be an extension of ourselves, not a product, not something you interact with. It just is you, and it's so intuitive, it's so clean. That's why you can hand I don't know if you've done it with your son, but you can hand an iPad or a phone to a baby. They start figuring it out. They can they can
I
get a
don't
hold of
hand
it.
it to him. He just reaches for it and tries to take it from me when,
Yes.
especially on a FaceTime call.
Mm-hmm.
He recognizes, he knows when he sees his mom or his
Mm-hmm.
grandma, and he's like, ah, and he just claws for it. And he sees me interacting with it all the time, especially if I'm going to pull up like
Mm-hmm.
uh, YouTube Junior or whatever, Kids or
Yeah,
whatever it's
yeah.
called, and I'm like doing, swipe, swipe, swipe. I know he sees it. I can see him non-tech related just because I'm thinking about it. He studies, like he's
Mm-hmm.
very aware of his surroundings, and because he has no teeth, just his gums, he
Yeah.
can't eat food yet.
Mm-hmm.
But pediatrician says practice eating food in front of him so he can see. And I don't need to like get in front of his face, because whenever I open a bag of chips or something and I'm just like something loud like
Yeah.
and I do that, he'll look, and then he's just like, and I'm like, do you want to bite? I go like that, and then as I bring it to him, he instinctually
Yeah,
opens his
yeah.
mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and I know he's gonna grow up in a world of touchscreens and this that.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's so post tech
Mm-hmm.
that this is going to be normal for him. And I actually think about, now going back onto like tech stuff, thinking about like Vision Pro or just the vision sector of things. I think about how he's going to be like exposed to that in some ways for his safety, and for other ways for his knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he he might be the generation that grows up when it's refined, really, as a child, or going into like his preteen years. Uh, he might be the generation that's his preferred operating system. That's why I think about it, and
Mm.
I compare it to like my preferred OS is Mac, and
Yeah.
that's because I'm a fossil. Whereas my brother, who's only 10 years younger than me, it makes all the difference. He is that example that you were referring to, where in some cases the iPhone replaces 100% of your computing. That's him. His
Sure.
only computer is an iPhone 14 Pro. That's all he has. Well, I mean, he has an Apple Watch too, but that's just because, like me, he wants
It's an extension of the phone.
Yes, he wants an extension. Same thing as AirPods, right? But not that I don't use my iPhone. I definitely use my iPhone for its convenience. It's right there. My preferred OS will always be Mac. I love it. I grew up on it. I know it, and it's maybe the most intricate operating system so far. Whereas, like, how we've lamented on the failures of iPad OS, I've grown to accept it for what it is, and because it's no longer my replacement, my PC replacement, I'm like, okay, you're a good passive engagement. Like, it is the best. I think the iPad today is the best consumer product that you can buy with screen real. If battery life and screen real estate is your thing, get an iPad. If you're just gonna go on YouTube or social media or play games, get an iPad. It has everything that you would need for your consumer habits. If you're about that ecosystem, the iPhone is the best camera, communication device, breakthrough internet. I can't say communication device. Are you getting it? So let me ask you this: with VisionOS, not Vision Pro, VisionOS. Why I'm split is we know better than to just listen to leakers and whatever. Everybody has a thought about something, right? But what I'm far more interested in, which I think VisionOS would play a factor in, is something that's actually portable that stays on you, like glasses. I don't want to do low blows and take cheap shots on something that's obviously a first gen product and talk about how bad the battery life is for Vision Pro.
Yeah, that's easy to do. The price is too high.
It's very easy to do.
The battery.
Price is too high. Battery's too low. It's heavy. It's clunky. It has all the. I don't like my. It's not my intent to attack that because obviously it's a first gen thing. Spoiler. The first Series 0 now Apple Watch, worst battery life ever, biggest bezels ever.
People weren't sold on the Apple Watch on the first gen either. There was a lot of doubt.
I was
there for that. I remember that. I was there.
Just as an extension, WatchOS became like, I was like, that's so cool. But I agree with you that that's so cool in the context that that's going to be with me on my body like my iPhone, and it's compared to my iPhone, so it makes like I already knew that. AirPods, same way. Full accessibility to the AirPods Pro because of the which, by the way, Drew, don't know if you noticed.
We both are.
My goal is to go so wireless that we talk about finding value at our intersection. As an audio file, as an audio engineer, as a music producer, songwriter, all that. I can't break free of all. It's logistically impossible to be completely wireless. Even if there was products that can do it.
Sure.
The latency would be atrocious. That would be a nightmare. Fair. But as I record this, I have but one USB-C port in use, which is for my preamp that I'm not using to record our show. I use it strictly these days to have lossless audio go through my over ears as I mix and master music. So it's value and its cleanliness, its peace of mind, its minimalism in the sense that it gives me exactly what I need to do. It's a tool, and I put it away. But I have so many other silly cables that I look at that when I see the studio display and I realize that all those can be plugged into the back. I don't even need the HDMI port anymore. I can just use one Thunderbolt, and then that would be that. And it's power, it's display, that's all I really need at that point. And then I can plug in the studio display my external SSD and have that feed, and I'll never have to look at it ever. I could, and I can also have back there a USB-C to Lightning forever how long that's a thing. For my iPhone, if I need to charge my iPhone,
Sure.
because I also bought a mount for the display so I can do continuity
That's
cam,
good.
mount thing.
I'm glad you're not
So
relying on the studio display's webcam because it's been disappointing.
no,
Nope.
no. Today's episode is brought to you by filming on the iPhone 13 Pro Max because it's really a camera first.
Yep.
So that's my life. So anyway, I say all that because wireless. I love wireless for portability's sake, for cleanliness,
Hmm.
as the AirPods Pro, as the Apple Watch, as an iPhone, but not as a Vision OS thing yet. You will for the next few iterations, however they choose to refresh this thing every other year, every 18 months, every 2 years,
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
who knows. However they choose to do it, for the next, I would say at least 3 iterations. I would be happy if it's by Gen 2, but I would say at least 3 iterations. This is going to be a very glued to your desk experience. And I
Mm.
think that's wherein lies my fundamental issue with the product being something that's supposed to break free from our black mirrors.
Hmm.
I like black mirrors. I like that. Because I'm broken free from it, but I'm only broken free from it adjacent. I'm right next to it still. I would have to
Hmm.
be in my office, or I have to be in a place that has to be at bare minimum close to a power source, an outlet, a
True.
something.
Right.
And what I really want, what I and maybe I'm just being silly old Randy here, blissfully just expecting the world. What I really want is glasses. One, because I need glass. I'm a glasses wearer, but
Hmm.
even so, like what I want to be the real next revolutionary thing is give me something that's so passive of an experience that I mean, at that point, with Apple Watch, with AirPods Pro, and then the glasses, I wouldn't say no to Neuralink. I'm practically there anyway. I'm practically a cyborg.
All right.
But
Break out the surgeons. Let's integrate.
I mean, we're right there. Um,
Yeah.
I would I don't I don't dislike the software by any stretch of the imagination. I don't dislike the possibilities. I I I would even say I don't dislike the price, which is funny to say
Mm.
out loud. I haven't said it out loud yet. Because the price to me makes sense if it's to be a high end. Like, we're already 4 figures in for pro iPhones and stuff.
Hmm.
You're basically 4 figures in for a pro iPad. You
I
are
I could
about
start
to be.
to understand it if it truly, like, for so many people, replaces the need for so many devices as it.
TV.
Yeah.
Uh,
Monitor.
Immediately, first thing, TV, monitor, your computer, the iPad. Uh,
Yeah, I honestly think it overlaps with the iPad quite a bit because a lot of the justification
yeah,
for the iPad is you want a bigger screen than the phone. And most people leave it at home. So it's like, okay, if I want more screen real estate and I'm willing to take out something a little larger and the phone isn't cutting it, that's a pretty big screen because you can make it, infinitely adjustable. Now, I think it's really hard to be sold on it before we've tried it because I do think it's one of those, definitely out of any other Apple product, something that needs to be experienced more than
sure,
explained.
yeah,
It's very hard to market because it's not something we can compare to anything. Most of us are not putting on headsets all the time, and most of us don't rely on eye tracking and the little pinch of the fingers to interact with things. But I think it could be one of those
yeah.
things where, like the first time someone tried scrolling, or the first time someone was like, "Oh, I can fit this little multi-touch display in my hand and in my pocket. I kind of want this. I kind of need this." It could be one of those moments where you try it on and you're like, wow, I'm like immersed. I am like I don't feel like I'm wearing a headset. It just so I'm glad you brought up the glasses thing because I have a deep syphilopoulos question about that.
Oh,
And
you're quite the philosopher here.
I am. But
I'm a philosopher.
let's assuming you could use those generative AI type things where how they analyze people that are young and how they look when they're old, and then they can extrapolate how you look and predict how old you'll look in the future. We can do that with our tech. Look at the first iPhone. Look at the iPhone
Yeah.
now. Look at the first Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Look at the Apple Watch now. Um, Now picture Vision Pro and using that same extrapolation of what does Apple do with
Okay.
tech over time, apply what they could do to Vision Pro in the future, and I'm going to
Okay.
say let's assume glasses aren't possible because either they're too
Okay.
lightweight, too thin, and getting transparent displays working with prescriptions is just too complicated. So it's still a
Okay.
headset with a strap and everything, but they slim it up a bit. Picture the go-to I have is like ski goggles. They're kind of bulky.
Yes.
They do cover your vision, but they're definitely thinner than what Vision Pro currently is. It's separated off your face a bit. We slim that down. We get the eyesight display a lot bigger, a lot wider, a lot more closer to the edges. Um, if this is something with the R1 chip being incredibly immersive, where the pass-through latency is so low, um, and the battery life is decent, like, could you visualize a future in which people are connected to their computing via essentially holograms more so than they are touchscreen? Because that's the one I keep coming back to is like, it's not that the phone is replaced, it's just that the phone, which it already kind of is, you're a classic example of this as of right now. The phone becomes more and more of a camera oriented device. Its job is to be a camera, because that's the one use case where I'm like, that's not really something I see Vision Pro replicating. They try to with the
Right.
spatial video or whatever, but it's it's weird for the people you're taking a picture of, and it's definitely not going to work for selfies. um like put the
Yeah.
headset up and now you can't see
How do
it.
you send that to like Costco or whatever to get it printed when you want to have
Right, how do I print out a
like there's
spatial picture?
how do you
Yeah,
get this thing to like buy one again
it's one
and
of those photos
how
that
my
like
Christmas cards.
it changes when you tilt it, it gives you like the different perspectives.
I want it to be as close to the moving portraits in Harry Potter as possible,
Yeah.
where you got the singing lady or
Right.
whatever, and yeah.
No, but like I keep thinking about, okay, let's say the R1 chip is as impressive as people keep making it out to be. Everybody who's tried it, who's talked about it, keeps saying what freaked me out was Marquez's take on it, because Marquez is a fairly objective guy, especially towards
Yeah.
Apple. He's a bit biased, but it's usually in Google's favor, not Apple. And this is an
Right.
expensive product that, by all means, everyone is justified in saying crazy 2 hour battery life. Are you kidding me? $3,500. This is ridiculous. That's like the surface level reaction. That was my reaction at the keynote when I first saw it.
Sure.
It was like, oh my god. But then it sat
Two
for a
hour
while.
battery life,
Yeah, right.
$3,500. That's
Exactly.
one expensive television.
It's so easy to do that.
It doesn't
And
have a
I'm
keyboard.
and I want to remind ourselves how many times Apple has been in this exact scenario where they unveil an expensive, you know, compromised piece
How
of
many
hardware.
times do we need to keep teaching you this lesson, old man? Hey,
Exactly.
are you young people?
Apple has proven us wrong so many
Yeah.
times on things that we thought were a joke, things that we thought were going to be a failure from day one. AirPods, Apple Watch, iPhone, iPad, even the Mac to a certain extent. People were like,
Yeah.
that's not going anywhere. Why would people want a computer in their house? Like, are you insane? It's like we don't know what we want, and I think Apple's still trying to play that game. And so far, like everything is going according to tradition every single time.
Mm.
It's all going back to that. we don't think we want that, but we haven't experienced it yet. And Marquez's take on the eye tracking was that it was telepathic, which kind of blew my
Yeah.
mind. Was he was like it was getting to the point where it was just kind of doing what you think it should do with hardly any actual motion. Let me pick up the device, let me tap this part, let me touch this part. And if it's as immersive as it is, I started struggling. Mr. Who's the Boss video also was very good. I normally don't watch him, but I went on a Vision Pro binge. I was like, I found an aspect of the tech space I'm interested in again. I have all this content to now watch. And I was
Yes,
like,
you,
yeah,
still not you, you.
right.
Never you.
Everyone can fill in the blank on that. Whoever you're guessing, yes, that's it. But I was like, because Mr. Who's the Boss, or also John Morrison's video, good friend of mine, got to the got to the point where he was like, okay, what if this is so immersive? What if you can wear
I
this
call him Jomo.
passively? Yeah, Jomo, right. It was like,
Yeah, Jomo.
is this a future we're okay with? Is this something we're
Yeah,
prepared for? Because then we got to the idea of assuming it's still cameras recreating an environment for your eyes.
yeah.
Do you really want that? Do you really want a future where you're staring at micro OLED panels, which are recreating reality for you
Yeah.
for all day when plugged in? You know, but of course that's the first gen talk. That's easy to mimic, but in time,
Yeah.
as battery improves, efficiency improves, and all that, I was like, that's the moral debate I've been having with myself. It's like, what is real? How do you define
How do you
real?
define real?
And
If
it
real
got
is
me
what you can
thinking,
smell, taste, and touch, then real is just micro neurological reactions talking to the brain. And
and there's
I know kung
several.
fu.
That's what this is all getting. It all comes back to Keanu Reeves. But what's
Not for
the
me. Mine is Mr. Anderson. Yeah.
it got me into the Saul Goodman approach of motivation and an argument of let's play the counterpoint to that. My first gut reaction is that's the word that keeps coming up in the media is dystopian. That's creepy.
Yeah.
That's a Black
Yeah.
Mirror, for a better term. I also finished the last season of that. Much better than the. What are we on? Is that season 6 that just came out, or season 5?
I think it's 6.
Okay, whatever.
I'm pretty
Season
sure it's
6
6.
was way better than season 5, for the record. It was so much better. But Black Mirror, as the creator brought up, which I thought was very astute observation, people started using the term Black Mirror just as another term of that's screwed up or that's effed up. You know, that's,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
when
yeah, yeah.
technology makes you go, holy crap, what's wrong with us? That's my gut reaction, is the idea of one day us wearing these headsets to the point where we're looking at micro OLED panels, perhaps half of the day, maybe more. Um, or close to
Something
half.
sad is so I think a lot of people are already doing that just on a
That's my
smaller
point.
black mirror.
That's my point of like, okay, I'm going to do the Saul Goodman motivation of argument. That's not that different than what we're already doing. If you count screen time for all devices, we saw people, Nick, unfortunately, a pretty good example of like when people start complaining, I want an iPhone with, 9 hours screen on time, 10 hours screen on time. Now people saying 10 hours screen on time, I would like more. Whether it's the Doogie phone with the 3-month battery life,
You
or
mean that brick
yeah,
that you lug around like you're from the 1980s Miami Vice
I've got some good
over
Doogie
here?
stories. But now couple that's just your phone. Now partner the
Yeah.
TV screen time. What's sad is we might already kind of be there in terms of screen time. Especially
Well,
I see when I go to in public, when I'm in an airport or a hotel lounge, and you realize how many people around you are on their phones.
yeah.
This is taking up so much of our eyes anyway that the idea of wearing a headset and that's how you interpret reality the majority of the time, is actually not that far-fetched. And it makes me wonder about things like how often you'll see people with AirPods in. I think AirPods Pro are the most popular AirPods, not just because of the noise cancellation, but also because of transparency mode. When you're
Yes.
having a conversation with someone and transparency mode is on, do you consider, like, that's still a real conversation, right? You're still hearing them, you're still interpreting
You
their
react to it.
voice.
Oh man, we're getting deep. I'm working on it. You react to it like it's a real. I mean,
Well, this is baby
effectively, that's
steps.
what
This
you.
is working up to the idea of a visual being replaced with a emulated form. Is like when someone's talking to
Normally,
you.
we used to call that metachlorians, and then the Force, and then you ascend it. You're
Yeah,
trying to find Qui-Gon and all this.
yeah. Well, this is where my head is space is going, and what I'm trying to tell people is like the first generation is honestly not that important. The
Right.
intention of the platform is what I'm more interested in. Like, where can this go with time? Because that's what gives us more excitement about the hardware. Because if you understand that a use case can open up given the right hardware, that's that's what gets you excited for the product itself. We're in the hype business. We're surrounding the business of new tech enables new use cases, new features. That's what we're always looking for. What is the next iPhone going to have that's going to convince so and so to upgrade, or what's going to convince me to upgrade is a new use case, a new feature. We've kind of run out with that because it's also peaked and matured. But this is like, okay, as you said, 2 hour battery life plugged into the wall. This is definitely more pitched as a desk accessory. Apple's always showcasing people wearing it, typically by themselves. Um, if one person shows up, maybe then your eyes appear on the weird external screen. It gets all weird and everything. But um, I think because of the limits of the hardware, the marketing of it is sticking with the the strengths. Okay, what can it do right now? Let's focus on that
Mm-hmm.
and try to sell that, because it's clearly not going to be flagship, mainstream on the first attempt. I think that's pretty obvious. I think Apple knows that. It's only in the U.S. and allegedly the rumors are they just cut their production estimates in half. So it was already a low production run. Now they're not even expecting to build 500,000 in the first year. So this is intentionally a niche early adopter product from the get-go. So that I'm not too focused on, is like, how well will the first gen Vision Pro do? I don't care. It could flop. I don't think it really matters. It's
If it
Apple.
does, it's not going to hurt their sales from a company perspective,
Yes,
especially one on the market, like a stock market. Like
right,
that's not going to affect anything
right.
from a business standpoint. This is
They're
one
not
more.
betting the company
Apple
on it.
TV, ITV initially was
Hobby.
a
That's what
passion
Steve Jobs
project.
called it. Yeah.
What? Yeah, they just were having fun with it, and it just
Hmm.
kind of evolved from there. And this could be one beat, above that, but still below. Being they're not marketing it, from my understanding, to be any type of replacement. It's just one more operating. It's and here's where I give credit to Mike for saying this, that Vision Pro is just one more alternative to something that you would already be doing.
Hmm.
If what, think about Stage Manager for a second.
Hmm.
I'm going to bet you and I both don't use that,
Correct.
right? But I know two people. I hesitate three, but two people for sure in my IRL
Sure.
that does use it,
Hmm.
because they like the client. There's it does the same thing, just took a different way to get there.
Yes.
We're on our Macs right now. We can go up to the top right and hit our AirPods Pro and manipulate the settings of it if we wanted to, or
Hmm.
we can right click on the system settings, go up to sound, click on sound, and then within sound go to the AirPods, and then for output right click. You can two ways to get to the same result. And older people I know prefer to run everything through system preferences. That they still call it system preferences. They are used to it that way. Some people like to have the hard drive icon on their desktop as the original.
That's right.
Space Mike does this to this day still, because his preferred way of computing is drilling down from hard drive down. That's just his technique. I like hitting on the old keyboard F4 to get my apps up on the Mac, and I like to get to my applications through a more iOS-like environment, whereas other people's will hit Finder and get to the app. I'm saying all this to emphasize the point that there's more than one way to get to the end result of what you're trying to achieve.
Right.
And you also have that interchangeably between devices. There's a lot of overlap between iPhone, iPad, and MacBook. In some cases, iPhone and iPad are completely one and the same. You can't even tell. So, except for if you need a stylus, but who would want that? So, what you as an individual are trying to achieve with your computing dictates the best path forward, or the one that you've been conditioned to do. You talked about how you were even conditioned about something as trivial as swiping up on your Apple Watch now, but you're still used to the the last nine versions of WatchOS to get to Control Center, and now you can't, and you're like, but now it's about conditioning as well. So that is how I see Vision Pro being utilized, in a way that it's one more way for you to achieve something in a better environment that you probably could still do on any of the other products that you have or are an interest in getting, but maybe this one might offer just a different experience, and maybe even in some cases a different outcome. The obvious one would be 3D rendering. That's the most obvious one, but I don't want to think that small, because they don't even emphasize 3D rendering that much. They showed them dragging. They went it was so quick how they emphasized or showcased
that was not
that.
Most of the marketing for it. It was definitely more of a computing focus.
And we were expecting games. Oh, this is supposed to be a gaming device, because that's what Meta does. This was supposed to be, and not a single game. I didn't see Arcade promoting. After seeing Death Stranding beam, I was like, oh, they're going to show this on the headset. Oh, they didn't show it on the headset. Okay, gotcha. So, if it's meant to just interact with the internet, or something more personal like your photos, and you want to maybe even experience a certain surrounding by going to, Mount Hood, because, I've never been to Oregon. Let's see what that... Oh, nice. Okay. Then more that doesn't hurt, nor that doesn't benefit or hurt. It doesn't take anything away. It doesn't maybe intrinsically change anything either. But what I have an expectation with VisionOS to do is to really lean in to the vision part. And what I mean by that, going back to now this portability thing that I was bringing up, and what you were more or less getting at when you were asking me, is I've used quite a bit of headsets in the last 5+ years. And I remember how vibrant, when I have everything on, how bright and vibrant the world around me becomes. And when I take it off, I remember the first time I put on a VR headset, and I was with my friend Jordan, and he's a fanatic about this stuff. And I took it off, and he's like, how do you feel? And I remember, I was like, right when I took it off and I looked at him, my real world around me felt muted. Like it wasn't as vibrant.
Sure.
I distinctively remember, like, wow, these colors aren't popping. Everything feels like we just desaturated it a little bit. We dropped the vibrancy on everything. And that was a bit jarring for me. I was like, I kind of want to go back into there and go play the bright games and stuff like that. It's fun, it's nice, but it was still gimmicky for the sake of playing games. And what Apple was showcasing is it showed you the world as it is presented to you through your own eyes. The way an Apple photo might be more depicting of what the real photo looked like instead of sharp contrast or vibrancy,
Right.
depending on Samsung or Google. Like we might be able to make it look better. Here's the photo of the moon, but what you're really seeing, and that's what Apple does.
Uh-huh.
That concept of what they do with the photos, I feel that can be expanded on in a way with the headset. And if that is true, that doesn't just vibrantly blast colors at you the whole time, and I think that's where people get sick after a while. If it's true to life, then I would dare say it's semantics about are you engaging with the real world or not?
Doesn't matter.
Because it's all shades of gray. There's not a sharp line there. Prime example, I was in Italy, and speaking Italian is not the same as speaking Spanish. There's some common root,
Oh yeah.
Latin words, but they are not the same. And I had to ask a question at a pharmacy at the time. It was, quite urgent, and I couldn't. I was trying, and I couldn't communicate. We had the language barrier. She did not speak any English, and I was struggling to. I was like, habla español, and she was like, parla italiano, and I'm like, oh, no parla, and I'm like, oh, this is hard. But I downloaded the Translate app from Google and from Apple, and I had my options there.
There you go.
I broke it out, and I typed what I needed what I needed from her. Do you have this in stock? Do you sell this? I showed to her. She looked at it, and she was reading it. She goes, takes it, gives it right back to me, and that experience was real. Could not have been done without my phone.
That's true.
At all.
Yeah.
But that experience was a very real experience. Apple promoted AirPods Pro to be a almost hearing aid to help emphasize audio for people who might not be able to hear as well. There are so many. The Apple Watch helps you with your. These aren't, medically approved by any means of the imagination. I'm not saying that, but they alert you on certain things health related.
Or like I always
and
say,
those are all.
Did the walk really happen if you didn't track it in the activity?
Just like posting it on Instagram stories or whatever, did it really count? Did you
not a real
really
walk if you
charge
didn't
your
count all
car
the
if you
steps.
didn't tag your charging experience?
So all that you're getting at comes back to that same point of like, we're not that far from there anyway. It sounds, the
Right.
medium is different of like, okay, what if we were looking at everything through a display with cameras? But what you're getting at is true, which is that we're already very reliant and dependent on this virtual computing. It's handling our flights, it's handling our communication with, like I'm talking to you right now. We're on opposite ends of the planet. I'm looking at a black mirror that's projecting you, and then I'm listening to you through AirPods. But I still feel like I see you and we talk every time we do this. I feel like we exchange stories, we exchange information, even though it was all technically virtual, and I'm thousands and thousands of miles away from Randy, and yet
No,
we
you're
can
not. You're in
maintain
my
this.
office.
Yeah. No, I'm talking to you right now, and I guess that's the trippy part I keep thinking about, because I think people are definitely obsessed, including me to a certain point, with this end goal of, well, what if it gets to glasses? And I'm starting to think more and more, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't need to. Does it necessarily need to get to glasses to become a passive form? Because at the end of the day, what do we want about the glasses? It's that light passes through it. And in a way, that's still the case, even with Vision Pro. Light is being captured by cameras and then redistributed on those displays. But it is that is all dictated by reality. So like, I guess I'm still looking for that line. You're kind of saying there isn't really a line. It's this gray area that gets kind of blurred. But I'm curious if there's
No, I'm
people out
saying
there.
that I would want there to be a blurred line because we're in. As I was cherry picking my examples
Mhm.
a moment ago, the line already gets blurred depending on how you engage with your world. Cameras taking photos, FaceTime call, doing this, and we're on. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking on FaceTime. By the way, my God, I can't tell you the last time we recorded a show on this, but because
Discord
FaceTime
wouldn't let me
has
log
had a
in.
few
They're like,
hiccups.
someone in Thailand is trying to log into your account, and I'm
It's
like, I
me. I'm
know it's me.
someone.
It's me, you
Um,
idiot.
think about how much range anxiety, so to say, but for your consumer tech, you have anybody has when they leave the house and they realize they don't have their phone on them.
That's true.
That is a product of blurring that line where it's a big shade of gray somewhere.
And here's it
Because
on the opposite end of that spectrum. I'll
yeah,
advocate for a second. A lot of us wear prescription glasses or sunglasses. We want to get technical, real technical. Your eyes are looking at a piece of plastic or glass,
yeah,
and light is
to
passing
help
through those. But
enhance
mhm.
what you because my the eyes that the good Lord gave me weren't good enough.
Right. There's a flaw with how your naked eye interprets reality, right?
Yes,
Or it
yeah.
doesn't have to be even a flaw. It could just be an uncomfort. It's too bright outside. I don't like all this sunlight.
Howard, I see colors you couldn't even imagine. I'm in worlds you don't even believe.
Right. And so that's we're talking about how on one end of how, okay, look at how we're using our computers and our screens now, and this is kind of blurring that line. And I'm trying to argue from the other side, even without a computer, even without a screen, you're still letting light pass through something to either enhance your vision or for comfort reasons, um, to dim down that light because it's too bright out, or you want to adjust how well you can see your focusing distance. This potentially, this technology of the VisionOS devices might be right in the middle. It's that blurring line. Light is still passing through it, but not in the same way, obviously, that a pair of prescription glasses
Right.
does or sunglasses. But it's also
Even more so, let me take it even one more. Polaroid, whatever, polarizing that
polarizing
helps
lenses. Yeah,
fragments.
right.
And then prescription glasses even have a thing where they help the lens flare happens at nighttime when oncoming
Mm-hmm.
traffic lights hit
Right.
you, so it
That's
actually
true.
diffuses it, so you
Mm-hmm.
don't get blinded by it,
Mm-hmm.
thus augmenting your reality even more.
In a way, I might argue, we take pictures and videos. Why? Partly for
Yeah,
artistic,
yeah,
but also partly because our memory sucks. We're not
yeah,
good at capturing the moment. The human brain
yeah.
can't capture with the same amount of detail a photo. We can kind of remember things, but every time you go back, every time you access that side of your brain, it gets worse. You forget. Oh,
Yeah.
man. That's why we have maps. That's why we have email. We can go back, see exactly what people said. It's
Did
already.
I say that on the podcast about the recalling the memory?
You probably
Did I
did.
say
It's
that?
very true. They
That
talk
when you
about
recall
that
in a
in
memory, you're not actually remembering the memory. You're recalling the last
yes,
time you told the story. Thus,
yes,
you kind of distort the story a little bit
correct.
more each and every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So I
that's a memory bias.
I don't know. It's true, but it's another example of like technology is already filling the gaps of human flaws in many ways. Like
Right.
our biological limits are compensated by tech, and this is I think the deep metaphorical conversations that Tim and Craig and maybe Jaws is in there are all talking about when they think where is technology headed, what's the next big thing, what's going to change the way we
Yeah.
use our product. And this whole announcement has definitely like triggered my interest again, where I feel excited
Yeah.
about the future of Apple again for the first time in years. And that's why I had to start the note. I don't know if we have time, but I could go through some of them if you want. Some of
Let's
the
hear.
things.
Yeah, we're here. We're on the back end now. Let's
Um,
do that.
so the one thing I came up with when I was like first, my brain on these long flights is like arguing with itself. Okay, no, this isn't a big deal. This is a flop. This is going to be like the HomePod. But going back and forth, I was like, well, I do so much with my phone. I even take it underwater. I I can even film underwater and it can get wet. And this obviously first generation, it's got the cooling system. It can't get wet. But then I realized, okay, first generation iPhone, first generation Apple Watch even wasn't water resistant. But this is a pair of goggles, really, at the end of the day. You think about how well cameras can see underwater versus our eyes with proper optimization, with the right amount of time and efficiency, and they get it more sealed in the and they showed the modules, how the little cushions can come out, and you could have a underwater goggle module that lets you wear this thing when you go swimming in the
You
future.
don't even need to go to the Atlantic Ocean to see Titanic. You could just look down. Do you miss me yet, Drew?
Too soon?
Too soon?
We'll start playing My Heart Will Go On. You can be on the front of the Titanic with your arms stretched out. You could be the king
Bruce.
of the world.
Wait a minute, why is everybody at the stairway? I know this scene.
But yes, I was thinking of how we track our workouts with the Apple Watch in the pool.
Yeah.
It tracks your laps and stuff. With this, you can project screens underwater. You could put your laps or your tracking or your heart rate and stuff literally on the walls of the pool or on the floor of the pool if you felt like it. This hypothetically, the LiDAR probably wouldn't work underwater, but the cameras can track. Same thing with multi-touch displays. They don't work underwater, but the pinching of
Yeah.
your fingers would. That's just a vision tracking thing. So I was like, there's all these, and Apple was pitching the Ultra for this scuba diving stuff. All of this kind of tracks, like it's all kind of translatable for auto. I was like, actually, there's probably way more you can do with underwater use cases with Vision OS devices than you can with the iPhone, because the iPhone becomes mostly useless when it gets submerged. Um, but also, people were asking me about like, well, would you wear the headset while you're podcasting? Like, picturing us wearing it as we're talking back and forth. And it got me thinking, yeah, for one, that will look funny and weird on the first generation product, no doubt. But the headset will likely have better microphone quality than our Mac because it's closer to the mouth. You've got the attachments, and it's a whole M2 chip instead of just an H1 or H2 chip. It's a bigger device, and it's not as constrained by the tiny battery you fit in an AirPod. So you could get studio grade, probably better than than the microphone in our MacBooks. Put those same mics up here, it's capturing your audio basically directly in front of your mouth. It's right in front of you. So for the sake of podcasting, I think your audio might actually get better, or your video calling and stuff. The audio might be improved by that mounting point compared to talking to a phone that you're holding or talking to a laptop in front of you. Improvements in capturing audio quality. Another one that kept coming up was people said, it's not going to replace TV because I watch TV with multiple people. I thought of this too. Well, SharePlay is probably a thing for this reason. One person might not have the headset. That's the easy solution. It's like, well, in the future, everybody will have a headset. So you can both agree, let's both watch this movie. We can both see it virtually. Except I want to watch it on the lake. I want to watch it in a movie theater, or the one I thought of was like, what if one person wants subtitles and the other person doesn't? That's still an argument that I realized was coming up. Anytime we were visiting family and stuff, me and my wife were like, can we turn on the subtitles? And the person's like, oh, I don't like subtitles. They're distracting. I was like, here's another use case of where we can't agree on the one.
I didn't know this
mirror.
is controversial. Subtitles, all things, absolutely.
And on that subtitle
Absolutely.
discussion, we've seen the live dictation feature and how good that's
Yeah.
gotten. We could start bringing subtitles to real life conversation with more VisionOS wearing. If you prefer reading over just listening, you could be having a conversation with someone. It doesn't even have to be the same language. Same with that translate use case you had coming up. You're tapping and typing on a phone. If she just came up to you and started talking, and then it's automatically translating the text for you, and you can read it in real time. You understand her answer. Now you don't have to hand over your $1,000 product. Maybe the part where you're speaking might be a bit trickier, but I guess it can spell it out for you. Um, or it has a speaker, it can emit that. But the lifetime translation, the subtitles, and also if one person in the room doesn't have the headset and they're just watching a movie on the TV, probably a limitation that it would have to be tvOS. But if it's someone's watching something on their Apple TV, your headset can sync with that. It has internet. It has Apple Silicon. It can start saying, okay, I will sync up, just like how it syncs up with your Mac with the external monitors. I will sync up with the TV and let you watch the exact same movie. And when they pause it, it's paused for you. Except now you can expand that screen beyond the black mirror. You can make the TV bigger. Or I've been to some people's houses where the TV is mounted on really high, so your neck is kind of. Does that ever bug you when
Yeah,
you're
oh,
at
yeah.
someone's house and you're like, why would you put your TV up that high on top of this big piece of furniture? Okay, let's all watch the movie on this big screen up there. Instead, now with the headset, you can grab it, bring it down, make it bigger. And even if you get up, go to the kitchen or go to the bathroom, you can take that movie with you. You're still watching it same time as they are. It all comes back to the toilet use cases. But
Every day it goes, do you want me to pause? No, 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 just, I'll have the door open. Just keep playing. I'll
yeah,
listen.
with the headset, you don't have to ask anymore. Really, it's just no. I'm still watching the same movie you're watching. I'm just getting up real quick. Um, and
I'm
that
just
got
relieving
me.
myself while I'm doing it.
I mean, there were. Let's just say on this trip, there's been many times where I've had to visit the toilet, and because of the very delicious foods I've been experiencing, these trips may be a bit more extended than when they were stateside. So there were times where I'm like, okay, I want to not think about what's going on. I don't want to think about this. So I take my phone and I'm using my phone while I'm in there. Not that different. My dad used magazines growing up. People used to read magazines. It's not that weird.
Yeah.
But with the headset, you don't have to
My
fumble
dad would
around with.
read the Time magazine. I was like this thick. And
Right.
sometimes in some months he would read it in one sitting. We're like, what are you doing? We
You
got
said
one bathroom, Dad. I gotta go.
you said sitting, right? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, in one sitting.
Okay, good. It's a
Yeah.
little delayed, but so I was realizing when you do that, you're fumbling around with this expensive phone and you're trying to work with the bidet or the toilet paper, and you gotta turn around and I gotta wash my hands and all that. If I'm just wearing a headset, you just you don't have to fumble around, worry about where the phone. You just sit down and you just keep doing everything like you normally would. Uh-oh.
Three of my road rashes on my phone are because of that scenario of in the bathroom and I'm fumbling around, and because
Yeah.
I thought I could go caseless in my own house, the tile is still tile, and I go I'm like,
Glass is glass.
I thought the
Yeah.
squatty potty was leveled and it could just hold my phone, but
Right.
no, it slides.
This is again, anytime I ran into a use case where I was like, wait a minute, VisionOS would be really helpful here. I wrote it
Yeah.
down, and that was one of them. I was like, I'm tired of fumbling or trying to balance my phone on the sink or whatever, and you're trying to just getting everything just right. Oh, this is another exciting one that I haven't seen people talk about. So, iPhone 15 is rumored to get periscope lenses, right?
Right.
Oftentimes, we pull out our phones because we want to see something further away in more detail. This is basically just a big computer with a bunch of cameras on it. Future iterations, maybe even with that digital crown, we could get really great telephoto lenses on this thing. Except now you're just wearing the lenses instead of having to pull out a phone. I want to see something far away. What kind of bird is that? Or what is that mountain range? Do you see? Is there smoke? What's going on out
Is
there?
that really the moon?
Yeah, I want to see the moon in more detail. Now you can just
Is that
zoom on your own vision, just see things from far away without having to hold the rectangle, look at it through the black mirror.
the
You
micro
know?
mode that we got on the 13 Pros? I can't tell you how many open pores I looked on my nose with that thing just to see.
There you go. The macro. Imagine holding things up close. We all gonna look like we're on
Like,
mushrooms.
stand still, son. I need to check your ear. And I just like, Dad, what are you
really
doing?
You wouldn't
Relax.
lose focus. Relax. Yep.
I'm a professional.
That's another one. Night mode, hypothetically, with I was messing around with there are IR cameras, I believe. So hypothetically, you could see in the dark without the need of a flashlight with this headset on. If the lights go out, you just, like the Zero Dark 30 style. So,
Go.
yeah, not as cool on the phone, but kind of cool if you were just wearing a headset passively all the time. You're just like, oh, I can't see very well. That's better.
Man, that'd be a very intense game of laser tag.
That's true. Another thing I was paranoid about when I've been trying lots of different drinks and beverages on the trip, but I'm still working on my laptop, is I realized this feels very dangerous and inefficient to have this very expensive computer that I'm working on. And if I spill a drink on it, not only is the keyboard screwed up, but you can destroy the computer underneath by spilling food and getting the keyboard dirty. In the future, as they demoed, if you're able to pair keyboard and mouse and just use this as your machine. Unfortunately, it's not running Mac OS, so we're going to transition my complaining of iPads should run Mac OS to now Vision Pro should run Mac OS. It has the chip. It has the M2. We know
So
it can
what
do
you're
it.
saying is,
It might come into that battle again, but hypothetically, future generations of the chip, M5, M6, whatever. If I can just pair the keyboard and mouse, and now that's my Mac, and I'm using it with the virtual screen on the go and everything, I'm not so worried about the keyboard and mouse around me. If I spill on that, okay, I lost a keyboard rather than the entire computer. So now it's
yeah.
thinking about it more and more. It's made me realize, like, oh, this is kind of dangerous having this big heavy thing that I could spill or drop or destroy, opposed to a wearable that's just strapped and secure, and I'm not worried too much about even the battery interchange really quick if you lose that or drop that. So, and the other one I kept thinking of was the keyboard. Like, okay, text typing. We could type on a full size QWERTY keyboard in real space, which might look a little creepy, but you could find a way to make that augmented. But the other way that we're more comfortable with now with phones is the swipe keyboards. And I realized you could probably do swipe virtually. You just project whenever
Especially
you do
with
this
that
with
new
your
and
hand.
improved autocorrect
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they were boasting about.
If whenever
Which
you
I
just
don't-
do
I
this with
don't-
your hand, it projects an iPhone-sized keyboard on your hand, and now you can just swipe on it. You could probably type just like you do on your iPhone, except now you just look like a crazy guy moving his thumb around his finger. But to you, it's not crazy. I guess if a caveman showed up, or someone from the 1700s showed up today and saw us all using our phones, that's already creepy. We're all just obsessed with these little glass rectangles.
Pieces of glass.
So take it a step further, and it's all augmented. Now only you can see what you're typing, and people can't look over you.
Sponge guard just.
Oh, the other one that The Verge brought up. See, I went on a rabbit hole. I watched everybody's content, but The Verge brought up a very useful thing that people want to take advantage of is the facial recognition. If someone walks up to you, it reminds you their name.
Yeah.
If you've added them in your contacts or whatever, it just says like, oh, this is this person's name. That way you don't forget. Because I still forget people's names at big get-togethers, big parties. So if you're talking with someone, it's got the microphone.
Hey, John next door. John parentheses next door.
Exactly. But we're already forgetful, and that's why we have a contacts app. To write down
Our
people's
brain,
names,
our
their numbers.
natural brain, I don't think we were meant to take in so much information
That's
organically
true.
like that.
That's very true.
But alas, here we are defying the odds. Like, no, I think we will. I think we will.
We can remember so many. It's the same thing with like social media in general, like Facebook. The number of people we keep up with that we haven't spoken with for years, and yet we know what they're having for lunch today. The human brain was not meant to keep up with this many people, but here we are. So the headset expounds upon that. Can you imagine, like, first time you meet someone, the headset realizes this is a new face. They're not in any of your pictures. You don't recognize them. They could register, oh, you're shaking this person's hand. What's your name? And then they say it. It dictates it, attaches that. Is this the correct name? There's a little checkbox. And you go, yeah. You just agree to it, with the little pinch. The other person doesn't even know it's happening. Now you've already added that face and that name to their contact. And next time you see
so
them...
your contact app is no longer phone numbers, it's people's faces.
Well, that's how we keep track of people.
The FBI and the CIA would love to get on that for the first time ever.
Well, you and I both know that's already a thing.
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, the super obvious one that I didn't see anyone else bring up is QR codes. There's already QR codes everywhere, and they expect you to open your phone and scan it. With the headset, it could just automatically open walking around. Like, this could fundamentally change the advertising space of the QR code in real life. When the headset picks that up, it just opens a little window the size of that code, so, it doesn't cover up your entire vision. But when you look at that ad now, or when you look at that banner, the link that the QR code would open is already there, instead of just a box with a bunch of squares. Now you can just look over and it's like, here's our website, and you can just start interacting with it. So that's already on your route towards 3D holographic, ads. That
this has given me anxiety. I don't really like. I don't want to be walking around force-fed ads because I'll just use an ad blocker. Is there VisionOS premium that I can subscribe to?
What I'm trying to tell you is, like, this isn't that different from what we already have. What is Times Square? But an assault on your eyes.
So true. Yeah. Well, Times Square. Oh, what is Times Square? A mess. It's a mess.
It's a mess. But there's billboards, there's banners, there's ads everywhere. The QR code is just making those ads a little more interactive. That's all it is. So now it's a billboard you can touch.
Let's conclude put that on this.
The headlining. A billboard you can touch.
A billboard for your eyes. 1,000 billboards in your pocket. 1,000 billboards in your retinas.
Oh, I was gonna say that's what the iPhone is. I'm gonna put 1,000 ads in your pocket.
I'm gonna put 1,000 billboards in your retinas. And
that's so beautiful.
So here's I have two versions. I have two versions of this outcome that you're throwing that I will address simultaneously. Okay. First one. What's got you cracking right now? The billboards? Yeah, it's the billboards.
I'm picturing Steve Jobs. I don't know why. It's Michael Fassbender saying he's gonna put 1,000.
I'm gonna put 1,000. 100. No, 1,000.
I'm gonna put 1,000 ads in your pocket.
What?
Why? You're gonna love it.
I named it after you.
I don't know why that Michael Fassbender Steve Jobs shows up. That's the one I'm thinking
of. Because that's the one that VisionOS's avatar gives you. Perfection. It's just, but he's doing his X-Men perfection thing instead.
Yes, yes. Oh my god.
Seth Green? No, I was! Okay.
I made this watch myself. Oh my god. Okay.
No.
Hakuna Matata.
Well, I'm thinking of the interview and him just trying to go see Kim Jong-un. Oh man, but
this is a great episode.
This episode never goes to North Korea. I look at the analytics. We're fine.
That's good.
We're safe.
One day. We'll get
One day. Okay. So this world of VisionOS, everywhere you go, many iterations down the road. in a vacuum, in my own like sphere, because we're all the main character of our own stories in our head.
Yeah.
In that world, I'm really excited about this stuff because it is meant to. Overall, what you're saying, which I, in that sense, don't disagree. It's meant to present already accessible information in a new way, in a more accessible way, even.
Mm-hmm.
But it's meant to give you convenience. I think about Apple always emphasizing on the accessibility features for people who need aid in one of many ways, and we will capitalize on that accessibility not because we need the aid, but just because we think tech is cool. Whether it's the triple tap or there's so many different ways that people use it. And I know when that AI voice thing drops, I'm not running in beta, so I haven't tried anything yet. Mm-hmm. But just to know that my voice would be out there is kind of cool and creepy. But then it's like, what does AI Randy sound like if I use AI Randy on a song? I'm curious. That would be kind of cool. Oh, so like, yeah, that's something I'm gonna play around with if possible, just to see what that like. Can we strip the humanity out of it? Which I'm sure we do, but do you strip the soul out of a voice when it's artificially, generated in that sense? So I'm curious about that, but. With that, the tech of that was meant to help people who are going to lose their voice and to help preserve a effectively a memory of the voice. And that's kind of cool in a really trippy way. I'm like, man, Stephen Hawking would have loved to have that, and it wouldn't even have an American accent anymore. The smartest man in the world at the time chose to go with an American accent, and he's British. He's an Englishman, but he decided to use this voice.
And also, Hector Salamanca would have loved to have that. Instead of doing the iMessage ting every time.
And the gun is yours. 50,000 and the gun is yours.
I need to see your balls. But no, to get morbid about it.
Worth frame.
Like, if you want to get morbid, because I know you do,
no, not me.
Your son could hear your voice
for the last time?
Say things when you're gone, hypothetically.
What has my dad never said to me? I'm proud of you, son. Tears.
But it makes the series.
Okay.
I'm proud of you, son.
I'm proud of you, son. Man, what if somebody, not my son, but now somebody else takes my voice and they make their version of that movie Her, and I'm just somebody's voice assistant.
Hey, big guy.
Oh, no. Hey, big guy.
Well, now they don't need it. You already gave it to them now. We've given them so many samples to pull from, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true. You don't need to use the AI thing. There's enough inflection in my voice that's more accurate over days worth of hours of content out there that they could use in lifetime. Probably. So the other side of my brain, the one that likes to challenge the status quo of everything against tech, kind of finds something very freeing, something very liberating about just leaving all that behind. The example being like when I go on a walk every day, at some point with my kid, I put him in the stroller. No tech is with me, and I'm gone for at least 30 minutes. I try to push an hour, but sometimes it's a little hot in the South to have an hour outside.
Yeah.
But there's something for where I could just talk to him in lifetime and like listening to the birds and feeling the air, and like this is the way that. And I tell myself, like, this is the way Earth is meant to be appreciated and taken in. Whether you want to, I mean, if anybody is, even on the religious side, it's like this is, God's creation. I don't want to challenge that. If you're if you're just more open minded, then you're just like, When's the like we make the joke go touch grass, we say that all the time.
Yeah.
But it's like
It's
sometimes it's really healthy
Yeah.
to go touch grass. At bare minimum, get some vitamin D on you from the sun.
Right.
And anything that can break me, I want to, we talked about this, many times before. I want to be more like my wife. And I don't want to be so fixated on my tech, which is why I don't upgrade the way I used to. Like, I want to be like her. If my wife can have a healthy relationship with technology, so should I. I mean, obviously I can, but I should. So I will use her as my gauge to be like, what do you think about this? Try put the headset on. Let's see. What do you think about all that? If she's like, yeah, no, I don't get it, then I'll be like, okay, she needs to be she's my true north. She's seen something or not seen something that I'm not. I need to look at that, because I can find so many reasons to make the case for it, and I don't want to manipulate I don't want to persuade her for the wrong reasons. I don't want to manipulate the approach of how I go towards that. And I am talking Gen 1 product here. I think I feel inevitably, when I say Gen 3, by Gen 3, Gen 4, that this will be mainstream in our lives the way there was a cheaper iPhone, a cheaper watch, a cheaper iPad, a cheaper MacBook. There's always a cheaper AirPods. Everything that there is under Apple from a hardware category, there are more than one version of it, and that's intentional. When we get to the cheaper, more refined, more intentional, like here's what the core thing. Okay, fine. Maybe you don't need to have pass-through eyes when you're talking to somebody, but maybe, or 3D photos, but maybe you do want to be able to still interact with the environment in an AR type of way. I feel when we get to that point, and now we're talking, I don't know, $700. Okay, so something that, but I'm trying to put it towards like something to the cost of a phone, or if that's too cheap, something to the cost of like a MacBook Air. We're talking about the cheaper variant of something. Now that we start to get closer to a different product category, maybe it could still be an accessory or a complementary device to the ecosystem that I already have. But I will always appreciate the tech for tech's sake, and I will love to see the software not go the way of iPadOS. Me personally, I still feel, after seeing the keynote, and I probably will feel this way come next year, early next year, I don't know if this product can be for me, because the last thing I need to do is be in my office more or be on my phone more when I have a baby. That's 100% of my time. So Randy, as a dad, has been looking for ways to minimize. If I can, I use the iPad because it's a cost fallacy, sunk cost fallacy, right? It's there, I use it, I find use out of it, but it is a redundancy that's there. If I could minimize everything, I could see a world where Series 7 is my last Apple Watch ever, because I don't use Apple Watch like that anymore. I can see a world where maybe MacBook could be the last MacBook I have before we get the next gen, whatever. And it might be Vision Pro or Vision whatever they call it next. But if we get to the point where what we do is becoming more simplistic, continuity cam, MacBook mic. I mean, I have everything but OBS on iPad. I could maybe have done the same thing. If we're getting pretty close where a MacBook Pro might be overkill, and that's a good problem. I like that. Yeah. That's maturity in the sense that we can really, maybe 4 terabytes was a bit too much, and then it becomes an external storage bank for me in the long terms. Who knows? But I guess where I'm getting at is that I like I'm still addicted to challenging my my addiction. I'm addicted to challenging the addiction. I want to simplify as much things as possible, not for the sake of minimalism by the word, but because of efficiency of what I want to do, and then stop when it's time to stop to go do the other parts of my life. And I know that's a very Randy only thing. There are odd people in our audience that I know are young, and maybe they just live, they have a bedroom at their parents' house or something, and like, listen, all I care about, and I get that. At some point in this timeline of things that we call life, you will be presented an opportunity to cross over to the other side where you might be taking on other things of other interests in your life that will eat up more of your time. And if you get to that point, there has to be a compromise. You can't have your cake and eat it too for all things. If you do, something ultimately has to give. And I if what you say is true for Vision Pro or Vision OS, if that could be the replacer ultimately near the end, if I could have just but the one thing and still do everything in this spatial world, because now we're interacting in a three-dimensional space, not just a black mirror, then I would use that as the tool it was meant to be, the same way I use MacBook and Final Cut Logic, OBS, etc. in the same way. And I'm okay with that world at the cost of selling everything else then. And then it's like break all that. And it's like, what does Apple want me to do? Subscribe to services so they can make money and then buy
Yeah.
a one product. Give me one product that can have access to all the services I use. There we go. Then
Mhm.
maybe that's the world
Well, and
I can thrive
yeah,
in.
I don't think, I never understood the logic that it would be more, what's it called? Isolating is the word everyone kept using. I feel like tech is as isolating as you want it to be. I've seen a lot of people that isolate themselves with phones, and I don't see how the headset is more isolating just because you're the only person that, to me, that's like saying headphones are isolating. It's like, if you want them to be, if you put them on when people are around and you turn it up, you can isolate yourself with headphones or smartphones or anything really. This is just another medium, but it doesn't. I don't see how it's more or less isolating. But um, in the same way, the efficiency or advantages of being able to put all of that hardware or all of that accessibility into one product, I think it would eliminate the need for you to, oh, well, let me go to my office to do XYZ, with the exception of maybe recording, because you need to be by yourself when you're talking. You don't want to disturb people around you. You want good audio, all that. But if it's something like, I need to upload a video or upload a podcast, or I need to edit, I'm going to edit my music, or I'm going to do something like that. Um, I don't think you could get more portable than just something you just you just pop it on real quick and you're editing or whatever, on the couch, you're editing at the table, you're editing wherever. You could be on an airplane editing and check on files real quick, and then when you're done you just take it off, opposed to let me get my laptop or let me go to the office, check on my work computer, versus my phone can do this much through the app, but sometimes I need the desktop version of the website, so I can't use my phone to do XYZ. This all just kind of merges that. It all just kind of starts blurring together. I can now access the desktop version of things, augmented. I can just paste it right in front of me, or we don't need to. It actually got me thinking about, like, in the future, if everybody had one of these on, and this was actually replacing the TV for people. Um, do you need a do you design living rooms the same way? Do you design houses? Do you have furniture in the same regard? If you had infinitely adjustable screen sizes and virtual environments to immerse yourself in at work, like, do you need to put your desk in a certain way to have an optimum view of whatever, or can it just now kind of go in a wall? You can just turn everything off anyway, because it's like, well, I'm not going to be looking at a real uh, window or real wall anyway, so I can just.
Man, that feels so sterile to think out loud like that. Like, just put me in a white room and let me just paint it with the headset. But when you're done, you just take it off and you're in the insane asylum. Ah, perfection. You know?
Right. Well, it's like we have those digital photo frames, right? You have those little tablets that play your pictures. You could just start pasting those on the walls in VisionOS. It remembers, it has spatial awareness. It knows, like, okay, put window there, put picture frame there. Sometimes I want a view of the beach, to put the beach there.
You're building the Matrix out loud. You know that,
Yeah,
right? You are.
pretty much. But I also am simultaneously thinking we're already there. We're pulling out our phone and looking at pictures, or you're waiting for it to show up on your smart widget. Why should that
Yeah.
be stuck to a rectangle in your pocket? Why not put that on the bedroom wall or the living room wall?
Because it's inconspicuous.
Yeah. Could have your
I don't
shared
know.
space. Now you and your wife can see the TV, or you and your wife can see the same window or the same pictures, and they filter out.
But you
Imagine,
see, the reason why we like the iPhone 13 and 12 mini is because it was so small, not because it was infinite. We want it small.
well, because
And
it's more passive ultimately.
it's a beautiful shade of green, like. But I think like the same reason maybe iPhone SEs is in your life is that we want to have that healthy arm's length boundary to the tech that we have in our lives, and then you invite this elephant in the room the size of infinite canvases around, and immediately destroys all that work you've been put. I don't know if well, the hardware is only as good as the software will allow it to be. We know that from iPad.
Yes.
And uh,
That's why I didn't bring my iPad on this trip.
what's that like? I didn't bring my iPad. I only brought the iPad. I lied. I brought the iPad, but I didn't bring the MacBook. Ew. That's when I learned I actually liked iPad OS. I was like, okay, I'm on vacation. I'm forcing myself on vacation. Oh, but maybe I can insert a clip for last minute predictions for Dub Dub here, and LumaFusion and AirDropped, and
That
that's when
was
I was
good.
like, iPad. Thank you. iPad is not that bad. It's
No,
just
I don't think it's bad.
it's just
It
not.
it doesn't justify
Well,
a product that goes north of 500, $600. If you're buying a
it's just
400,
not.
$300
It's
tablet,
not
it's fine.
good. I could have done the same thing on an iPad mini, and I more or
You
less.
honestly probably could have done the same thing on an iPhone, to be real. Like,
The thing is, and I most LumaFusion projects I have are on my iPhone.
me too.
On a 13 mini, the smallest screen I could have possible. Most of my
Try
projects are on there.
LumaFusion on this thing. It is like
Jeez.
everything's just there, but I'll give them credit. They make it work. It's like a 4.7-inch display, and I'm editing videos on.
I want a quick update. I know you did a video not that long ago too, but just for the sake of here and today's time frame of it, how's SE2 treating you?
It's a tool. That's how I look at it.
You still
Um,
hate it.
well, as a tool, I will admit it is very like it's good at its job. It's small, it's compact, and it can still wirelessly charge, unlike the Pixel 6a. And the camera's not bad for what it is, considering it's like the only iPhone now with a single lens setup. I've been recording all the videos off of it, and people are usually impressed. People are usually like, that looks good. And I saw a few people saying, "Oh, are you shooting this on your 13 Pro or your 14 Pro or whatever?" I'm like, $100 phone.
Audio's not captured on it though, right?
No,
That's yeah,
audio is a
okay.
big mess everywhere I go. That's the hardest part. The video is,
Yeah.
but the audio, getting that right. So I'm recording with usually the videos I record with this, but its naked audio is still not good enough because everywhere here I record is super echoey and or super noisy. Like yesterday, I was recording a video and people started like drilling underneath the house. They were like drilling anchor points and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, well, this is fun." And when I tried to film outside, it was really quiet. And then I start talking, and the birds hear them, and they all start chirping. They all want to weigh in their opinion. So they all started tweeting super loud. And I was like, okay, can't record here, or then it's too
They
windy.
should have a tweet limit out there.
A
You
rate
know,
limit.
this
Yeah.
a rate limit.
That's good. That's good. But yeah, it's always a trick. So I use that mic and voice isolation on Final Cut and treble boost because just voice isolation makes me too muffled. I'm too like
Yes.
quieted, and if I boost the treble, it emphasizes the vocals a bit more, and that's what the last 4 or 5 videos have been, and it seems
The
okay.
last the two for sure. I haven't I could but the last I think at least two audio has been good, really good.
It's
I noticed because
you can tell what I'm saying, which is the goal.
I no not it's not that bad. It's good. It's you are not only showing you're doing what entry level YouTubers would have done anyway, but at a higher rate. What I would want you to one day deep dive on when this is all said and done, I want you to show that it's not really about the gear that you buy or the mic or well, in this case it is the mic, but what I'm saying is that like the high end most expensive 8K this or what that it's the productivity, it's the efficiency, it's the turnaround period. You are
Hmm.
still sticking to your schedule consistently, and you're putting out content quite reliably, against all odds, all costs, all continents. You are still making it work with on an iPhone, and I
And
know
a
you're
cheap
not
iPhone.
filming at your normal. Yeah, and I look at the video. I'm like, okay, this is not 4K at 60, obviously, but all things considering, your initial people don't come here from my background, when you had the studio, like
Yeah.
to hear what I have to say, and proves that point that you're not using your black magic. You're not in a studio, an
Hmm.
independent studio with blurred bokeh in the background at different angles and lighting and have all what you're just the bare essentials, just camera to the face,
It's
here's
good
what's
enough.
going on.
Yeah.
And good enough is like good enough is good enough. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, good enough is good enough. And your iPhone SE shtick here has quite inspired me a bit to not get an SE. I'm not doing that. No, I'm sticking with the 13 mini.
I have standards.
Um, I do have standards.
I will say
Okay,
it's
I
a
might have looked at I looked at a price here or there, just to see.
I'm kind of curious what like well what this trip has taught me is that I really don't need an iPhone 15. And
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't write it off until they make their pitch. I'm still trying to be fair about that. I don't want to pre-decide product decisions before trying them anymore. I've established that doesn't go right, and it's not fair, and it's not a genuine way of reviewing something. It's to not even try it or know about it before you make a decision. Same, I'm the same way about Vision Pro. I'm not saying I will definitely buy one and keep it. I'm not saying I definitely won't. I need to try it. I need to experience it before. But I for a while was having the mindset of like, okay, well, if I'm traveling this much and my iPhone is my work camera now for extended periods, maybe I can justify spending a little more on a 15. I really don't want to buy another iPhone with Lightning. I'll just throw that out there. I'm kind of
Right.
I'm I'm so tired of the Lightning debate. I just want it to be over with. I kind of just want all Lightning to be out of my life. Partly why I haven't upgraded my AirPods Pro, even though I love the second gen. I don't like the Lightning port on the case. Um,
I've never used the Lightning port. It
that's
has
true.
always been
I
MagSafe.
probably wouldn't either, even if I got that one. But I would just feel more comfortable knowing that it wasn't there at all in the event
Yeah.
that I don't have the charging puck, because the idea is that I could hypothetically have one cable to charge everything. And that's going to be Type C because the MacBook isn't going to get, any kind of inductive charging. So for a while there, I was kind of holding out like, oh, maybe with Thunderbolt and 15, that'll be good for transferring footage off of the phone and into the Mac. And I'm like, you're just you just want a shiny, pretty thing, Drew. That's not. Don't try to justify that as a tool. That's because I started doing videos with this phone, obviously, once I left America, and some of those videos did better than my Blackmagic recorded videos back home. Like my recap of the event and talking about Vision Pro did not do as well as my WatchOS 10 video. And my WatchOS 10 video was shot in a hotel room with bad audio and bad lighting. And I was like, okay, I focus. I mean, a lot of people out there probably look at me and like, oh my God, Drew, you're horrible with lighting and you're horrible with audio and you're scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of quality. And I'm still thinking to myself, and yet it's still probably I care too much. I still probably put too much of an emphasis on it because I want there to be a something somewhat nice to look at as a background. And I, for a while when I had Starlink, I was trying to do 60 FPS uploading, but then I got here and the upload was worse, and I was like, let me try 30 FPS, and no one really said anything. I was like, how much extra work am I making for myself by
To be honest, okay,
insisting?
so I notice the quality difference, but I encourage the lesser quality on purpose for this very reason.
Hmm.
Like when we FaceTime or Discord, whatever, like you're never 60 frames. You
Right.
know, our podcasts are not 60 frames,
True.
and we and we have a consistent, listener base
Hmm.
on the video or audio side, and we're recording on like when I say that you inspired me with that SE thing, I moved to the MacBook mic. I moved to AirPods Pro for all things except Logic projects. And even then, that's not true. I will listen to playbacks on not to get too technical here, but when I listen to a final mix of something or a final master of something before I release it, I sometimes will mix a song in AirPods Pro because I know it's going to be listened in AirPods. And so I want to hear how I want to adjust certain volumes of things and
Sure.
automations of
Mm.
panning, but all these. So like the idea that like I had like this cost hundreds of dollars to have,
Hmm.
and my preamp as well, and my microphones, and the most expensive thing that I would say that accessory wise that I'm using might be the MagSafe mount, or it might be all episode long. I have been filming with this wireless LED light that we
Ah.
have just really because it's too dark in my son's room, and we have a few of these we put in his closet so we can find his closet.
Hmm.
I've been
That's
filming
nice.
like this is when people think what the most important thing is aperture pixels and these sounds lighting mic that fixes most of your problems.
Yeah.
And the mic is more than good enough. The
Hmm.
lighting, at least from my setup for the podcasting, more than good enough. It's adequate. For you to push the boundaries so like intently to make it smaller and in footprint of what you carry around, as well as file size in a whole, people don't care because we're now in the world of shorts and reels and TikToks, and people film
That's
on their
true.
phone all the time, and all that stuff is encouraged and rewarded and emphasized and
Yep.
promoted, and and
Yep.
and they just want raw, quote unquote raw. And I'm
Hmm.
like, man, we've been doing this for how we've been filming raw for a long time. So like, but it's encouraged. This it's we're proving the point that like we don't have to be AAA studios for developers or
Hmm.
Disney or whatever. You can have all the necessities that you need at your disposal now and get by as a content creator or as a even okay, let's say not as say content creator, but even as something as a passive, or not passive, but as a hobby, doing something as a hobby.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if no one ever listened to anything that I did, it would still be a passion project hobby of
Sure.
mine that I'd like to do, and it's good enough. So I think the theme again coming with all that, if there was a way to even do that with Vision Pro and you brought it all together into a single thing and it still gave you all that same output because maybe it's all artificially adjusted, say like your avatar for FaceTime,
Mm.
do people really want to see my face? I don't know. I don't think so. Why not have my avatar do all the talking? Why can't I just let my full body be the brain, type it out, and have my avatar speak it with my AI voice? Hey,
FaceTime
welcome
to
back
text.
to.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't think is in beta anymore. But anyway,
Mm.
so, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, the SE has been fine. There has been a few times where it has died on me. Um, just when you're traveling, you take a lot more pictures, a lot more videos, so I have to keep it topped off a bit more frequently than I would. So that's, but usually I'm never traveling by myself, so I can always fall back to my wife's phone to capture things as well. She's got the better camera anyway. The only issue is we both tend to fill up our storage, so we'll be in the middle of something, and be like, "Oh, storage full. Okay, go delete something real quick so we can make some more room." So I'm grateful for the MacBook because I can airdrop stuff and offload it, and I have all this storage here, which is good for storing all of the trips and vacations and everything, and keeping that stuff off of the phone itself so that it doesn't take up too much time. But there's a side of me that's like, oh, I know how to fix this, or now that I've accepted, I want to use my phone more as a tool, less of a media consumption device because it sucks you in. It's very addictive, and I've discovered it's addictive no matter what form it takes. Whether you have a 6.7-inch OLED 120 hertz panel or you have a 4.7-inch LCD, it's all addictive. You'll spend time on it, probably more than you should, and the whole smartphone addiction uh, issue has kind of been thrown out the window for me because there's just huge stretches of time where I'm just sitting either in a lobby or a lounge and we're just waiting, and it's like, I'm sorry, I'm going to use my phone. What am I supposed to look at? The wall, like I'm
Yeah.
going to use my phone, and uh, I don't know if I've accepted defeat on the smartphone addiction thing, but I'm not in my normal
Don't.
routine right now.
Don't. Keep fighting. Keep fighting, Drew. You're my only hope.
Well, all I do is if
Listen.
there's an opportunity to not use the phone, I will take it. But especially when you're traveling, there are certain circumstances where there is literally nothing else to do. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's fair.
even
I
then
know.
I will do my best to just sit and think. I'll just keep to myself. Just let me soak in this environment. And you can only do that for so long before you're like, okay, I'm done.
Have you tried your version or a version of like meditating?
Yeah, yeah. That's good.
I I do that, but I am also human, and I also default to my phone in those because my travels have been so fresh. Still, I know that long, elongated waiting period of just like, and I'm just sitting there. I'm Mike.
Yeah. I'll walk around
Just
if I
let me
can.
die. Yeah.
Like even at the
So,
airport, I walked when we had like a 9 or 10 hour layover in Las Vegas. I walked to
oh,
every gate at the Las Vegas airport just out of boredom. Like I need to walk and I just want to see everything. I want to get to know this area. So I will try my best. And to give myself a little bit of credit, I have never once hit the rate limit thing on Twitter. Everyone was complaining, "Oh my God, they're going to run out of what's it called,
what's
views or
that
whatever."
like?
You can People are like, "It's so easy if you don't have Twitter Blue, you can just run out of tweets to read, and then they want you to stop using the app." I've never hit that. So as much as a
Good for you.
smartphone, what's my average screen on? That'd be a good time to check. I'm
No,
curious.
I'm convinced that something was retroactively counted against me because there's no
Mm,
way I would have hit 600 or whatever the initial one is.
yeah.
But it blocked me on everything. I can hit every tab on the base part, go to trending. Oh, Elon's trending. I wonder why. I click on it, rate limit. And I'm like, oh god. Tweets. Somebody will respond to a tweet. I can see it in the notification, but I cannot. I will interact with it just to get rate limit. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. I know I'm not on Twitter like that. I like to read, but I don't go into the comments of it. Like I just like I'm not that far off from you. Like I'll read a Sawyer tweet every now and then, or
I'm
maybe
at
a
four and a half
Marquez
hours
retweet.
over the last 10
Ooh.
days, by the way. of
I'm scared
average
to
screen
look.
on.
I don't want to. I don't want to do it because I bet this has not been a good week for me for different reasons. So I don't want to do it. But I will say this. And I mean, it's very anecdotal too. So take this with a hefty spoonful of salt. But I tried like actually not tried. I've been like with a pen physically writing, and that's done something for me. I'm just like,
you're trying the journal app without the journal app. No, I do that too.
no, it
I'll
doesn't
write
even
in a
make
physical
sense. My
journal.
my my it's I just write. Sometimes it's a phrase, it's a lyric, it's a how I'm feeling. I'm not good at drawing, so I don't doodle, but I will write
Me neither.
something. Yeah, and there something about getting like actually I don't know. I forgot the art of writing, like what that does for you, because in my you know why? Because in my mind, and tell me if you agree or relate to this, I was associated with like schoolwork and homework. I don't want to do that. No, I don't want
Yeah,
to
sure,
write nothing.
sure.
But when I'm free to do it on my own will, like researching I go down Wikipedia for the heck of it because I'm having fun instead of researching a paper. You know, I'm just doing it for the fun of it, and I'm like having a great time. Same thing. I start writing. I'm like, you know, when's the last time I started practicing my signature again?
I
My
should really do
fancies.
that.
I have a lovely handwritten letter from Drew a long time ago,
Oh, that's right. I
and
was like, what?
it was
I forgot.
thought out. Yeah. Now the skit might say he's professing his love to me, but
No, but yeah, I write in a physical journal too. I realized I couldn't get the same effect with an iPad. A
yeah,
digital a digital stylus and everything, it just doesn't. You can leave that app at any moment. You can get a notification and you can do your focus modes and you can do your do not disturbs, but ultimately you are still one swipe away from leaving that app. Not the same with a notebook. It's there. There's no focus modes. It's no battery. How's the battery life doing? It's just pen and paper or pencil and paper, whichever you do. And there's something more, in a good way, isolating about that. It isolates you from the computing. And I was about to mention, that's another one on my list. You could write in a physical journal, and with the headset on, it could capture that text just like photos do. You know how you can highlight
yeah.
handwritten text? You could lift that stuff you write on the, so it's all ruined. So it's not isolating
Oh
anymore.
darn.
I guess just take it off. But yeah, it's a good mental exercise. It's a good mental break, um, to get your thoughts
I was
out
saying
on
about the
paper.
writing thing or the meditating thing because I just I'm trying to actively help you fight against smartphone addiction and don't give into it because I'm scared if you give into it, I'm scared the influence is too strong and I will give into mine.
Okay.
And
Well,
I'm
four and a
fighting
half
really
hours
hard
of
not to
screen on
upgrade.
time. That's the record to beat now.
What's the record?
Well, I guess the only one I'm aware of. I'm at 4.5 hours of screen on time over the last 10 days on my phone. So if anyone out there has less than that, let us know. I'm curious. How low can you
Yeah.
go? But that's just the
I
phone. That
do
doesn't count the iPad and the Mac and all the other screens.
screen time. Here we go. I forgot where I couldn't find the thing. I didn't know.
It's under battery, I think. You go
Yeah,
to like,
no, it's under screen time.
I didn't even look in screen time. I thought that you had to set that up.
Mine is 5 hours 24 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't even
I will
tell me.
beat it.
Okay, that's our.
I'm
We can challenge ourselves, but um,
keep me disciplined.
yeah.
See, because the thing is, like I don't want to upgrade. I don't want to find a reason to be on the phone. But I will say this: here is an objective issue that is applicable to my life that I am getting really, really angry. Yesterday, for the first time, I bought one of those like inflatable water pool things in the backyard,
Yeah.
baby friendly, and I put my
Hmm.
son in it, and it's his first time in the pool, and he's having fun, and he's smiling, and I'm taking
Good.
photos up the
Good.
wazoo, and I'm like, we have a shared like album thing I can give to family members to show, and iOS 16 makes me want to break every iPhone I have ever touched because I take the photo, then again, and again, and then it goes. And I'm like, did it get the freaking photo or no? And I open up the app now I'm no longer the moment. I'm like, did it? Is it blurred? What happened? Then the phone starts to dim because it's getting hot because it can't process a photo of my kid splashing water, and I'm like, oh, the rage! Like when I tell you, Drew, the blood boiling that I feel in my chest. And I look at my wife and I'm like, is this? She has a 12 mini still. I'm like, is your phone doing this? And she's like, well, to be honest, my phone's inside. I've been letting you take the photos. I'm not taking the photos here. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm strong enough because I feel like honestly, like I'm mad because I don't want to upgrade the phone for the first time ever. Like I'm happy, but I feel cheated. Is the best way I can keep saying it. Is I feel cheated.
Right.
Like, how dare you brick my phone? Why do you need that much RAM? Because I'm guessing it's a RAM thing. Why do you need that much RAM to do that? Then take off all these other. I've turned
That's
off light
hilarious because I
photos.
haven't had that issue at all. Just so ironic that the new ones have
Okay, so I should get
more
an
of
SE
that.
too.
Yes, that's the takeaway. Well, I will admit, like the freeing thing about it, no, it's not the best camera. No, it doesn't have a good display. The display
Want worse
sucks.
photos.
Want worse photos. It all comes back to that. But I will admit, when I'm walking on a big bridge and I'm walking across planks that are wide enough for the phone to slip below, and I know that I could drop this and lose it at any moment, it's freeing to know that to replace it, it would be like $100 instead of 1,000. You know, it's and
Yeah.
Apple Care on your $1,000 phone is $130. Like this is cheaper than getting Apple Care on those phones, and it's just I'm not worried about it. Like it could drop, it could break, it could crack, and I don't care anymore because I know it's not a big burden to replace, and um, I'm content with it. You know, I'm happy with the quality, and I did my whole vlog on it, and the vlog did great. It's just it's been a
I
reassurance to
love
me
that
of
vlog.
thank you.
Yeah,
It's
that
been
was
a
cool.
reassurance to me that like people just don't care as much as the tech community likes to think we care. And
Yeah.
it's a mature market. It's they all kind of do the same stuff. There's not inherently like a bunch of things that the newer iPhones do that this one doesn't that really as a tool unlocks something. It's all just like gesture control and Face ID. It's helpful and it's handy, but doesn't really unlock or enable that much additional use cases. So that's been a very freeing feeling. I won't swear off the iPhone 15 just yet, but I will admit, like, I am probably more comfortable now swearing off, like, well, I shouldn't say anything yet. But if I
Oh,
did,
let me hear it. Come on.
if
Oh, I held my breath.
I'm tempted to swear off the 15 Pros just because I'm like, I'm not so strict about 120 hertz anymore. Like that's not super important to make sure that the display is a perfect refresh
Ladies and
rate.
gentlemen, we got him.
Well, you got me a while ago. I haven't had 120 hertz for 6 months now,
No, I
I
know,
think,
but
but it's
I
been a
think I
while.
convinced you when I said, I was like, I mean, I notice it and I could not care less. If I could save money to just turn off that feature and don't even ship it with me, but give me everything else of a pro, I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
always opt in for that. You
sure.
know?
So I'm like, if I really just need a new phone, or I lose this one and I decide that I want a better battery life or whatever, I'll be more interested in a 15 regular, 15 plus. Um, I haven't quite crossed that bridge on accepting Lightning yet. I've accepted 60 hertz, but I'm kind of still in the boat of like, I don't want to buy another phone, at least a newer phone than this that still has Lightning. So I'm not interested in the 14s or the 13s or any of that. So I saw the report that the 15 Plus was going to have like the biggest battery of any iPhone ever. And I was like, okay, well, if I like my Douji because it literally just doesn't die, you just don't. What if you just didn't have to charge it? That's cool. It just lasts forever. I kid you not. I was on a ferry and it has a ton of storage, so I downloaded a crap ton of YouTube videos to it. and it has this little calculator in the notification center that says, based on your current energy usage, here's how long your battery life lasts. And I was watching YouTube videos on it for a couple hours because we were just sitting around on the boat, no internet, no nothing. So I'm just watching YouTube. And I swiped down, it says 89 days of battery life remaining. And I was just like, there's no way. That can't be right. And for hours and hours, I'm watching YouTube and it's still at 100. After several hours, the battery didn't go down like a single percent. I was just like, this is nutty. This is kind of cool. It's like 90-day, like multi-month long battery life in a phone that almost fits in your pocket. That's impressive. It's
That's
not
a
quite.
trimester for a pregnancy.
That's a trimester battery life, which is pretty nutty. So I was kind of impressed by that as far as Android phones go. I was like, foldables kind of overrated, super expensive, don't really do that much, but just brick phones, way more interesting than people give them credit for. Like, what if we just didn't care about how thin it is? We just made it super thick and see how much crap we can stuff in there. That's kind of cool. I'm kind of impressed. That's it's not bad. Um, so it got me on the whole battery life trend of like when you're traveling, what's the best form of charging? No charging. Like you
Oh,
could just get
jeez.
a if I could get an iPhone
Yeah.
doogie, you get it that thick, get a multi-month long battery life on my iPhone. That would be good. That's more tool oriented, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's more like you're
Yeah.
using it for pictures and videos and you don't want it to die. And to me, like the existing phones, like I tried the 13 Pro Max for years and the 14 Pro Max for weeks, and I know that okay, the battery life's better than the SE, but it's still something you're going to need to plug in or charge at the end of the day or at the end of the next day. We're still talking hours of battery life, but I'd be more interested if we started talking like weeks. you know, that would be a different story. But the difference in
Yeah.
how I'd use my phone versus 14 Pro Max and this, it's not really that different. I would still be plugging it in at the end of the day. But that experience with the Doogie made me go, man, if we could get iPhones this thick, like iPhone
So you're
Ultra,
thinking a 15 plus could possibly be a contender
maybe. Because
if,
I'm trying
say,
to
the
think of
battery numbers.
tool, trying to think tool over media consumption. Like just as something that I use for work. Don't focus so much on the display. Don't dwell on that. And I'm debating still if the port is a tool thing or a quality of life thing. I really love USB-C, and I can kind of
You
justify it
have
as,
gone 6 years plus, 7 years, never using those high speeds on a phone ever.
the
You've
speeds.
effectively gone on your phone. You've never had those transfer speeds before.
Oh no, it wouldn't be for transfer speeds. This is like a packing efficiency thing. It's just a one cable, one charger for all. I don't care about the data transfer speeds at all.
Oh! I misread what you were saying. I thought you were like between a pro and a non-pro because of the USB C,
Oh, that's a good
the
point.
port
Yes.
itself.
My point is with
Oh,
that, in the event that they give the pros Thunderbolt and the non-pros USB 2 speeds, there might be some use case that I can't envision yet. But the one I could partially envision is like if they let you plug in the iPhone with Thunderbolt directly to the Mac and it can record bypassing the storage of the phone. Like
oh, that would be so cool.
I would love that. I don't know if they can do that or will do that, but if you could, the second you hit stop recording, the video file is already in Final Cut, so I don't have to airdrop, or
Oh,
I
that
don't
would
have
be
to
so
plug in the
refreshing.
phone, drag the video into the folder, and then drag it into here. If I could
Yep.
bypass that and basically do what you're doing with continuity camera, except now it's better resolution, better frame rate, but then I come back to the whole story. Well, should I really care about that? Is that really that important? Or should I just record all my videos with continuity camera? I don't know. But
I wouldn't say it's either of that. Actually, I'd say it's eliminating 1 to 3 steps in the process.
Yes. So that's a tool argument.
It's about efficiency in the
Yeah. It's not so much
not necessarily 60 frames and 8K, like not I'd say just the fact that
it's not a
going directly
resolution
into
debate.
the source file of what you're recording.
Yes.
Like OBS is really good at compressing the footage for us with like doing podcasts and stuff like that, and I loved the efficiency of just the file size of OBS that had became my main source of recording anything. And I mean, even though I'm no video file or whatever you would want to call that, they like it has no issues or qualms or hiccups or nothing. It's flawless in that sense. But all that to the side, if I can record direct, especially, I'm editing this week, if I could just put this right in the Final Cut and not have to play the game of OBS from there, and it's first world problems. It's there's one more step. But over a course of a time,
when you do it thousands of times, yes.
when you do it more than once a day for work, like yourself, and there's other back-end things that we don't need to get into that have to do with like extracting audio. There's so much more that goes on than the final product of what you see that a lot of people just would not. They don't need to understand. That's not their purpose or job to. But there's so much more that you have to go through all these steps, whether you're doing the podcast, whether you're making the videos for your channels, for example, or whatever. That if there is any breath of fresh air of alleviating a 1 to 3 whatever step process in that daisy chain of things you need to do daily, that's kind of that's a cool break. That's like, whew, glad that's done. Remember when you used to have that that converter when you take the Blackmagic and plugged it in, had to transfer the file and convert it, and then you couldn't just use an SD card. Like there's some hiccups in the process, and not to say that's always applicable. In some cases, you want to record the highest fidelity of something, wedding or what, then okay, totally do that. But that's not your day-to-day. Those are special events or occasions and stuff like that. That's a whole different situation and setup. But day-to-day, I don't know, man. Like that would be that's a hard sell right there to say no to, but devil's advocate, you have gotten by just fine making it work, and I'm willing to bet, I would even challenge this, and I don't have the answer, or I don't have the challenge in the moment, but I would challenge that I bet you can even reduce even more steps somewhere in this chain and still make it work. I'm not going as far as like cut corners and just do the laziest input. I'm not saying being lazy, but you've already reduced the 4K at 60 thing and no issues, right?
Not really. No one really cares. No one said much.
It's like, you got your B-roll. Your setup is still the same. Main shoot, got the B-roll. Mic is good. You got internet speed, which is really all you really need. You got internet to upload. Yeah. I would bet there is some way that you can make it even quicker, which I don't know whether you're recording on the MacBook directly. Who knows? But whatever that
I did do a video with
is,
just continuity camera and OBS actually, but right before I left, we were getting ready to go, and they just started offering discounts on the Model S and X, so I did that video that Tesla really wants you to buy a Model S and X. That was all continuity camera. I bypassed the whole recording, but people picked up on it. Someone was like, the frame rate is off. There were comments mentioning it, so it's not flawless, but I think with USB-C and maybe some faster speeds, they could get that latency down so that recording feels just the same as recording off the phone itself, or maybe hitting 60 FPS helps with that. So that's why I shouldn't swear off anything just yet, even the pros.
Yeah.
Not for the display, but for the equipment that they ship with them. Not even really for the cameras. I'm very impressed with the sensor and the HDR and everything on this. I don't think the 15 Pro camera.
That's an iPhone 13 equivalent, isn't it?
Or
is that
really.
12?
It's an iPhone 8 sensor with an A13 chip. So it's a pretty old sensor.
A13 is the iPhone 13,
that's 11,
right?
That's the iPhone 11.
That's an iPhone 11?
chip. Yeah, it's from 2019. But
Oh,
it's
I'm
fine.
thinking
It
about
takes 4K at
SE3. I'm
60
thinking about
if you
SE3.
right.
Yeah.
SE3 got the A15 chip, and I've debated, well, if I do lose or drop or break this in the future, what would I replace it with? It'll probably depend on how much secondhand iPhone 15s are, because I definitely don't want to buy an iPhone 15 brand new. Like, sorry for those who want me to just buy it on launch day and keep it. That's just it's for what it offers isn't worth it anymore for all that money when you know you can just wait a year or two and get it for half off or less. But whenever that
Yeah.
upgrade is made, I'm still debating on the like, should it be a regular 15? Should I even get a plus? Or does battery life really matter that much to me? Should I just get the regular? I don't really like that 6.1-inch size, but maybe I should just live with it. Or should I go with a Pro because it has the faster speed? We'll see when they unveil it. We'll know more about it. But um, yeah, I'm still in the camp of like trying to make this work as long as possible. And the fact that it's been over a month now that this has been basically filming all my videos and capturing my trip, and I'm like, this is kind of the master experiment. If your phone can get by in this scenario where you're gone for multiple months and traveling overseas and it still works, then there's not really a scenario that's going to come up where it doesn't work. It can do all this. It can basically it works. It fits my needs. So, um,
Right.
but I'm prepared for if it dies, if I lose it, what's my backup plan? So I'm still debating that, but uh,
Yeah.
I'd probably at this point in time before the 15s come out, I would just get another SE2. I would just replace it with maybe a higher storage red, but other than that, it's still the same gear, same phone. Because I'm like, well, I know it works, and even though like it's not like we couldn't buy a new phone. Honestly, it did pretty well the last couple months. It's just it's an example to try to show people that it's good to challenge yourself and try to get by with less. Try to make do with what you have. I think is a good experience because it's easy to just say, oh, just buy the new thing, just buy the latest this or that, and that's the easy way out to me. This is more of the challenge that I hope encourages people that you should be content with what you have and try to get by with what's there rather than always trying to look for problems to solve with purchases because it's fun to buy things and it's easy to get addicted to that and just buy the new thing. But I'm trying to fight that urge because it's very easy to
I
just
know
say,
we've affected some people who listen to us
mm-hmm,
because I know a few people now who've gone down this downgrade journey.
yeah,
And I've even had one person tell me that they ran the numbers about how much money they have spent over the years
mm,
of just buying every year, upgrading,
yep,
mindlessly upgrading and
mm-hmm,
realizing they're like, wow. And that adds up. That adds up
wow,
pretty quick.
yeah.
Wow. So, do you,
Apple for me was close to $40,000 over the years.
woo. Yeah,
Sorry,
man.
what was you gonna ask?
I don't know. Closing thoughts? Yeah.
I guess thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate being back. I I feel
Always
like
got room
I'm
for a guest.
I feel like with at least with Vision OS and Vision Pro, I have reclaimed my title as Apple Sheep again. Like I wasn't too interested in many other fields Apple was going. The Apple Silicon transition is over. iPhones have peaked. Apple Watches have peaked. Everything's kind of mature. iPad has peaked at the bottom. That's how bad it can be.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
wha- but all that being said, if this is the direction, who know? I'm not trying to say I know what the future is. I really don't. I don't know if this is going to be a big success or a big flop. Anyone who pretends to know is wrong. No one knows. Apple doesn't even know, and I don't trust anyone that claims this will replace the phone or this will not work. This will fail. They're guessing, and they might guess
Yeah.
correctly, but that doesn't mean they really know. And as an Apple sheep, self-proclaimed, this is the direction of computing that Tim Cook, who I think is a great CEO, is taking the company. And as someone who's been following them for years, ever since before I did YouTube, I was a big Apple fan. I always appreciated that fulcrum they find of liberal arts and technology, making it functional and useful and beautiful. Like, if this is the direction they want to go, then this is the direction I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna join in on this quest into new uncharted territories where we're gonna be trying headsets or tech that I've never really gotten into before and new use cases. And I try to consider myself a futurist as much as I can, try to adjust with the times, adjust with new tech. And this is one of those things where I'm like, okay, if there is a chance, may not be 100%, but if there's a chance that this turns into the next big thing, this is how we're all going to interact with computing in the future, then I want to try my best to think of all the use cases, to think of all the different possibilities in stores. So I keep adding to my list, and I keep entertaining the idea. What would I do right now if I could just plaster a window there or a screen there? How would I use it the best? My workflow or best my media consumption. It's a direction I'm following Apple on this one, and it might not work out, and that's why we have Tailosive EV. But I'm you may not like it. I noticed that the VisionOS videos don't do as well as anything else, but I don't really care because I'm not doing this for the views. I'm doing this for the interest, and that's why I'm excited. Even if it doesn't bring a ton more viewers or anything, or generate a lot more clicks, it's just fun to have something that Apple's doing again
Oh,
that
trust
I'm
me, I know you're not doing it for the
excited.
clicks. There's way more clickbaity things you could have done. Oh
That's
man, we
true.
we could have gone on that bandwagon with the podcast and be like others that love to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely not that for sure. If anything, I would probably have a lot more views if I hated on it and critiqued it. Um, but I
Oh
genuinely,
yeah, the
I don't
Apple
hate it.
rant thing. People love you when you go off. They love controversy.
They love the
Yeah.
controversy, and it's not strategically good for my channel for me to talk so highly of Vision OS and Vision Pro. Like, it's a brand new product category that Apple has never done before, and that video didn't do it. It got I'm looking at it right now. It got 25,000 views. But my WatchOS 10 takes some getting used to video that gets 34,000 views. Or trying out
Is that the one from
Starlink.
yesterday?
No, this one was from a while ago. The one from yesterday is just at 10,000, but it's still new. It's still growing, but
Jest.
um, I will say it's one of 10 out of all my videos. It's outperforming all the Vision OS videos. So strategically, just revenue wise, it's not a good idea.
Strategically, Talos is going the way of WatchOS, man. That's how we're gonna milk this to the ground.
Basically,
Listen to the
I'm
analytics.
going into a direction that people don't want me to, just like WatchOS 10. But I don't care because it's a direction that I'm interested in, and I think is more innovative than a folding phone, or you know
I
something
mean,
like,
you
oh,
already.
what if the
What's the
phone
whole?
rolls up? Like, who cares? The spatial computing thing is so much more Apple. Like, it's so much more. We're going to think outside the box. We're doing it differently. We have our own vision of the future, and
Vision OS and Vision Pro proved to me that Apple will not release. They've made up their mind that they're not going to do a folding phone.
mm, interesting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
there's no need now. There's no need for it in any way or shape or form. If they were to entertain that category in any way or form, Vision OS, how you interact with it, is more intentional, and Vision Pro as a hardware thing has more going for it than a foldable screen that a MacBook effectively. I mean, like, what are you trying? Like, I pose the question again. What is a folding phone fixing? If the phone's too big, it's in the pot. Like, I kind of call to be honest with you, I call BS on that because people have Pro Maxes or S something plus. They have them just fine, and those things don't fold. Yes, they
Yeah,
make for
I get
Samsung. They
the
make the folding one as
problem.
well, but
They're like, we want a bigger screen, but the issue I have is foldables are not that big. The screens are
the
like
thing is that if you
an
want a
inch
bigger
bigger.
screen, the biggest screen,
It's
the
not that big
biggest
a
screen
deal.
is the best screen is no screen.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
It's still a
that's
Black
what I'm saying.
Mirror
Like
at the end.
they're
It's
not.
still a
They're
folding Black
that's it.
Mirror,
That's
but it's
true.
still
So that the fixing the biggest screen, the solution to that is VisionOS,
And
and
does this also
that
answer your curiosity as to why they don't make a dedicated TV? Does this cover that?
if it runs Apple TV the same way the Apple TV app does,
Hmm.
I think so. But I still don't buy it because they do make dedicated monitors.
They do. That's true. For now.
And the dedicated monitors is in my I would make a case of dedicated monitors the not even a cousin. It's like a half sibling to a dedicated TV.
It's got the A13 chip in there. It's halfway there. We could
It's
practically
right
run.
there.
It could run tvOS with a firmware update,
One of the
basically.
parentals stepped out and did something that brought in this other TV, but you got to accept it, You got to accept it with the
Yeah.
family, but at the end of the day, it has a
So,
chip in it and it gets yeah.
yeah. I guess my closing thought is I'm kind of betting the farm on this. I'm bet I'm betting the channel on VisionOS because nothing else is that interesting to me in the tech space. And the reason I'm comfortable betting it, even if it fails, is that I, I don't want to I don't want to run a tech channel where that's not the future, essentially. Where there's not some new piece of technology that has lots of room for improvement but it will fundamentally change the way we use our computers. In a world where it's all just iPhone, Apple Watch, AirPod, Mac, and that's everything, and it's just refinement upon refinement. I, I'm leaving. I'm going to EV stuff. That's all.
But Drew, how
Like,
am I supposed to know the Geekbench scores between the 15-inch MacBook Air and the
if
14-inch MacBook
oh god,
Pro of different chips?
I already spoiled it for you. We all know what's happening. It's the dynamic island is sinking. ProMotion Ocean is rising. Eventually, it's just big screen. We already know that the 16 series is going to go even bigger, so everybody's going to have 6.3-inch and 6.9-inch displays, better camera, bigger battery. Okay, A18, A19, A20, A21, A22. I'm sorry, I can't get excited for that. Like I was saying it before Dub Dub. I was like, I desperately hope they unveil this headset, even if it sucks, just because I need something different. I need something to talk about. It's not folding phones. It's not. It's not M3 chips and M4, M5, M6. It's all just incremental. Maybe we'll get OLED on the MacBook. Ooh, I can't keep doing this without some different on the horizon. I think that's why I'm so into EVs, is because they're not mainstream and they're not flawless. It's like they're in that early adopting phase. They're cutting edge, they're innovative, they're just coming out on the market, and they're slowly growing in popularity. And I need the equivalent of that early adopter, early S curve adoption. I need the equivalent of that in the consumer tech space, in the Apple space, and I got it now. That's Vision OS. This is the new controversial thing because not everybody's on board. That's what makes it like debatable. There's something to
Yeah.
talk about. So
They
I'm
don't know
I'm
that they're not
okay.
on board though. They're not being honest with the fact that they haven't tried it yet. They've made up their mind based off of something through Meta, I'm sure. And
And it
I'm the
gives
reason
you a
why I'm
reason to go to the Apple store again. I think that says something.
yeah.
The past 5, 10 years,
Yeah.
I walk right by the Apple store in a mall and I don't even like care anymore. Like when I was a kid, I got excited. We go to a mall or even Best Buy. I was like, oh, can we check out the Apple section? I wanted to go check out the latest thing. Now, maybe it's just because I'm older, but also it's just because I've seen everything or tried everything. It could be because of work. Now, if I go to an Apple store, I'm like, yeah, okay, the yellow phone. Okay, there's a pretty monitor, whatever. But now there's something to experience, not
Yeah.
just read about. Now there's going to be a line. They're going to have that one Vision Pro headset in there that's all sweaty, and someone has to stand there and wipe it with the
Um,
polishing cloth and everything. And but there's going to be a line of people. Let me try it. Can I try it? Can I try? It's a reason to experience an Apple product again. Whereas now it's like, have I ever held a 14 plus? No,
you
but
know what I do
who
at an Apple
cares?
store? I go to the MacBook Air or the MacBook and I practice. Can I open this display model with one hand? I
Yeah,
can. Okay. Oh, let me go look at this watch band that I'm not going to buy. Oh, yeah. That does fit pretty snug on me.
Yep, that's a
Oh,
watch
what's
band.
that? Beats Studio Buds has translucent. That's cool. That's that's in a box that I've
It
never
all,
seen
yeah,
before.
yeah. It's all. That's the thing, is it's all iteration, and Apple was founded on think different. And to me,
There.
this is the first product in a long time that feels think different. It's it's not an iteration. It's not a improvement on an existing thing. It's just we're trying something. It's not even really like other headsets. Not the way it's
Hmm.
intended to be used. The hand tracking and the pass through. Like they emphasized way more immersion than any other headset has, and I'm getting behind it. I'm excited to try it. I might be disappointed, but I'm okay betting the channel on it.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of multiple channels, I guess. With you having a
Yeah,
channel addiction at one point, everything
we'll
needed
have
a
to
new
make a
channel.
new channel, Tailosive Vision. Oh,
you
we'll have to branch
know,
off.
my defense to the Apple Store, I will say this: it did work the other day because I went down the rabbit hole of buying a studio display when I had time to kill. I was at one of my uh, never mind. I didn't say that during the recording, so it doesn't matter. I
Hmm.
was in the area and I had some downtime afterwards, so I went to Apple Store and I was like, I have not been inside an Apple Store. The only time I go to Apple stores, hand to God, was to make returns on the products I would buy for review. That's the only time I would go into an Apple store. So I had some downtime. I was like, when's the last time I went in just to, peruse around and, walk in. Hi, welcome in. How can I help you with anything? No, sir. I'm here just to browse. Hi, can I help? And I know more than you. And so then I walked
Yeah.
past him. So, but then I'm beeline to, it's like, oh, that's the new Mac Studio. Come to think of it, I never seen a Mac Studio in person. Oh, that is pretty neat. That's kind of cool. And
Hmm.
this is the studio display. Up, down, tilt, tilt. Ooh, nano texture. Regular one, and it just tilts. And doing that made me go the very same day or next day. Mike, I think about getting the studio display last week. That's what started this whole thing. Because I saw it, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. It's an iMac. All things considering, it's just an
Hmm.
iMac and nothing. But you know
Right.
what? I don't got an iMac, so whatever. And two, most importantly, I realized before I got to see these things in hand, I would have bought in the one that rises and
Oh,
tilts
yeah,
and
yeah.
nano texture because I'm like, oh, this is great. It breaks out the light more. And then I was like, no. And I got to see just the one that tilts, the cheapest one.
No.
And I was like, this is good enough. This is like my
Uh-huh.
MacBook. My MacBook is glossy. I
Right.
have no problems with my MacBook. So
Yeah,
anyway, that's my defense to
that's fair.
Apple Store. um, I have to say thank you for coming on the show as if you're a
You're
guest,
welcome.
right? That's funny.
You're welcome.
It's
Next
ridiculous.
next week I will be in a different time zone. I'll be in a different country. So it should be easier to sync up. Um, I should be available, but we'll talk. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out, and if not, then we'll experiment some way, shape, or form of people seem to lose. They don't like it when there's not an episode, so the show must go on, as they say. But all things considering, I appreciate you waking up early and jumping on and making time.
Absolutely.
And we do miss you, and I miss our long philosophical talks. Oh my God, I said the word.
No, it's fun. I like it. It's given me reason to talk tech again and watch tech videos again. I'm excited for the future for the first time in a long time.
That's good. I hope our audience, our listeners, viewers on YouTube or podcast enjoy this extra large episode. This was for you guys to have it all documented. I could have cut the camera a while ago in June. I could have just kept on talking offline, but I figured somewhere in the middle of recording all this, I was like, nah, you know what? People obviously come to hear what the Apple Sheep has to say, and I wanted to get your thoughts uninterrupted about Vision Pro and VisionOS and stuff like that. So
yeah, I've been thinking about that for a long time, because I was like, we need an answer for Randy's question. What problem does this solve? So
I'm
I tried
glad
really
you're able
hard
to come to the board with it. Yeah.
Cool. The black mirror.
All right, guys. I let us in, so I'm gonna sync us out for this one. Y'all take care. We'll see you in the next one, maybe with or without our shepherd at the helm here, with or with Mike. We'll figure out something. But all the same, everybody enjoy the rest of their weekend. Hope you all have a great one. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.